And we are live. G'day, guys. another weekend. Yeah, becoming a bit stupid. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, countdown. Oops. T1 missing in action. G'day, Luke. Hello, Christina. And g'day, Daniel. Gusto. T2. And my typical. Yeah, a bit. I don't know whether it's coming across, but a bit on the croaky side. I sort of been going out in the cold. Problem is, it's been getting. I've been sort of forcing myself a couple of times to go out in the real cold, and when it's raining and miserable out there in Tasmania. And the biggest problem is, you ingest. I usually just wear a singlet t-shirt and a sort of a raincoat type thing, but it's probably not because I warm up quite easily, and I just hate sweating in winter when I go for long walks sometimes, and so it's a bit of a hassle. And then on top of that, I end up sort of getting a bit of congestion because you get all this really cold air coming into your lungs, and especially when I go up the hill and places like that, I do that because I'm trying to basically sort of pushing, because you don't want to be basically that constant cardio. It's not good. It's sort of you want to be interval cardio. You want to be pushing sort of yourself, so to get the higher heart rate, to exercise the heart muscle properly. But problem is in the cold, it's I sort of have to remind myself to leave earlier when it's warmer, rather than leaving it a bit too late in the afternoon when it sort of gets really miserable. But anyway, I do it to myself. Eddie Favs Greek is added again. Our Favs, okay. Our favourite Greek. That's what you mean. Yep, I'm with you. Probably lack of sleep as well. Late. That's why I missed Bart's thing this morning, because I got up late. So I looked at it and I go, oh, shit. And then I just went and had a regular shit shower and shave type thing. And I needed a sort of a shower just to basically wake up and just feel alive again. Good to hear. Yes, exactly. We missed T1. Yeah, I know. It is quite cold. I go outside sometimes because it's winter in Tassie, and it's a hell of a lot cold. My younger sister that's moved to WA, to Perth, she goes, the mornings are like our daytime temperatures in Tassie, and I go, yeah, I know. So can be a bit on the rough side. You get up in the morning and you walk out and you go, ugh. Sort of, I always leave a nut behind. I sort of freeze off a nut. So, yes. Morning, mate. So, T1 went for a 10K hike with my brother on Friday. Was beautiful, 21 degrees Celsius. That is nice. Yes. Unfortunate. Yes. Yeah, actually, this Friday was actually quite reasonable. Thursday as well. It was the early part of the week that was really. I probably, I did give Monday a miss because it was just bucketing down. It was just so heavy. But yeah, it sort of wasn't a smart idea for me to sort of picking some of the times that I was going in those sort of areas and sort of ingesting a lot of cold air into my lungs. Not a good thing for an old fella like me. Yes. It snowed in Canada last night. What the fuck? On the mountain. And it was the longest day of the year. It's winter. It's supposedly summer. You guys are supposed to be having, hot, extreme weather and literally being boiled alive, according to the pseudoscience. Why are you having snow in summer? Exactly. She must have got. They must have got out and just did a Canadian snow dance. That's probably what it is. G'day, Harrod. Good to see you, mate. That's all I can put it down to. G'day, Richard. Good to see you, mate. Yes, it's been a sort of a interesting sort of week for me, with a few things, family, other things like that dealing with. So, like you do. What's Lucas asking? Harry, have you ever heard about the alternative theories surrounding polio? That it isn't in fact a viral disease, but a consequence of poisoning by things such as DDT. I've had it, but it's been debunked plenty of times. Polio is a real disease. It is a real virus. There's extensive research and extensive, clinical work, extensive experimental work. It does exist. The early days, the problem was in the early days when there was a lot of sort of shenanigans that were happening in Africa, in terms of developing a polio vaccine and stuff like that. It was in those days that people didn't have the knowledge that we have today. And there was a lot of sort of pseudo practices and some quite bad practices where people were, in many cases, their lives were taken because of. But polio still exists, even though DDT has been banned. Polio still exists in parts of the subcontinent, so it hasn't gone away. But it's in small pockets around the world, which are still being dealt with. So, no, I don't subscribe to that pseudo nonsense. It is a real disease, but in the early days, it was really poorly managed and poorly understood as well. So, as a consequence, a lot of sort of shenanigans and bad things happen to a lot of people, innocent people as well. So, yes, if anybody wants to go and look at the history of polio, they can do it themselves. But there is a lot of crackpottery out there in terms of viruses and stuff like that people talk about. It's basically this sort of nonsense we have, like we have with like we have with the areas of like we had for a long time. We had the sort of ideas that it's nature or nurture, and there was a bit of a competition about that. So you had people saying, well, it's genetics, or it's not, or it's basically upbringing, the environment and all that. But it's not. We know now with epigenetics that it's an interaction of both, and it's epigenetic sort of upregulation or silencing of certain genes and all that. It's a complex symphony of interactions between our biology and the environment around it and other species around it that are constantly exchanging, different types of genetic material. So that is what we understand today, and it's the same thing with a lot of things. There's there were two theories. One that believed in the terrain theory, that if you basically ate well and had a really good diet, you're impervious to any disease. And then there's the other group that basically says, no, it doesn't matter. You will basically be taken out by disease. And they're both wrong. in different ways. Because basically, when you've got some level of adaptation over a long period of time, viruses that we interact with a whole lot of animals and a whole lot of species in the environment, and there's an exchange of viral loads and bacterial loads and all sorts of things between different animals, different within the environment. But there's a fundamental difference. Unless you have a receptor, it can't go in and replicate. So unless there's a receptor there, like for instance the current virus that basically has a receptor that basically can get into cells, human cells. If we didn't have that ACE2 receptor, this virus would be a non-issue. So that doesn't mean the terrain is perfect. It just means that basically there's no receptor to exploit. Or there is a receptor which can exploit, the virus can exploit, And so that's where both ideas are sort of wrong, because one says that all viruses, pathogenic, potential, the potential to cause havoc and all that, and ignore this reality that not all viruses are, because they just don't have receptors, and some basically have been within our genetics interacting with us for such a long time that we've got enough robustness and templates in terms of our immune response to deal with them. So it's new stuff that our body's not being used that usually causes pandemics, and the others just cause issues unless you're frail, you've got a weakened immune system, you're old, you have a poor diet. So poor diet and all this does make you less robust and more vulnerable. But it's not basically that, if you have a perfect diet, the North American Plain Indians had a very perfect diet. Their warriors up until they're 70 couldn't mount a horse and go into battle. But there are plenty of diseases that they didn't have a template. Their own genetics didn't have a template to protect them, and they were ravaged. The ones who were agriculturalists were ravaged even more. That's why a lot of those temples were left and most of the population was wiped out, 90%. But the Plains Indians were more robust because they were on an animal-based diet. They were much stronger, healthier. And so their numbers, they survived in greater numbers, even though they were confronting a new disease that their body had never developed antibodies for. So both are wrong. We are in, having a good terrain is important because it gives you robustness, but it doesn't make you impervious. But also, lethal diseases that we don't have a template, that means our immune system can't recognize, can basically make us sick. Remember the bubonic plague and all these other things, there's plenty of them, examples. So both are partially valid and partially wrong in that regard. And now we understand that it is this complex interaction between good nutrition, good health, your general vitamin D status, because especially for respiratory type things or many other things, and it's all this sort of complex symphony that basically plays a role and determines. So, and obviously DDT may have played a role, we don't know, because it was never really researched properly. So DDT may have actually compromised the immune system far more and made people more vulnerable to the polio virus, so that there may have been an association there, but it doesn't mean that it's causal in that regard. So, yes, bloody, yeah. Strange. Yes, sort of I wonder what the global mafia is making of it. Why not? Is Cornell giving you a hard time, Lucas? Yes, I did miss the earlier stream, so and StreamYard decided just to basically lose my spot. Wonderful. Anyway, I just found it. Oh, I'm glad he is, So you've got to have friends, even small little friends, They can be a bit of a bitch, but, each to their own. Yes, it can be like that. Yes, skinny dipping in cold water. Sloppy seconds, bird brain. There's so much love between those two. Hey, they're my weirdos, so hands off. So what's Christina asking? I was watching Dr. Celadino's presentation on how saturated fats animal sources would make lipocytes insulin resistant. On the other hand, phytosterols actually will make them insulin sensitive. Have not heard that. I'm not going to comment unless I actually look at what Paul has said, because phytosterols are actually really bad. Phytosterols actually can incorporate into red blood cells, which I've pointed out a number of times. It's good research, and basically will make the blood cell less flexible, so it has much greater difficulty penetrating into much narrower blood vessels. So, oh God, yeah, it sort of doesn't really sound like something that I would subscribe, or I've seen any science to sort of indicate that something like that. He's seriously saying that it's okay. Look, if you're engaging the Randall cycle and you're putting sugar in there with saturated fats, yes. But you could be putting PUFA in there with saturated fats, yes. You could be putting monounsaturated fat, yes. So what's the point? And on the other hand, why phytosterols actually will make them insulin sensitive. Phytosterols basically are very damaging to the body. They're not a good thing. And I'd like to know the mechanism, and I'd like to know what the ratios, or what were these people in this so-called study were basically actually eating. Were they engaging the Randall cycle? Were they basically mixing their macros or not? No idea. So that's why I can't actually argue something which I have very little, knowledge in exactly what he said, and specifically what studies he pointed to. If you can tell me that, then basically I can provide a more complete opinion, but I can't really argue, I've heard some stuff, like the honey stuff and all sorts of things that he's come up with and all that. Yeah, look, a food that has got more fructose will have less of an insulin effect. We know that. But the thing is, fructose has a lot of other problems, glycating problems, 7 times more glycating. Its threshold, you've probably heard me, I've said, the threshold between glucose and fructose is 4.7, the threshold. That means in terms of the threshold as a percentage sort of thing. But as a direct sort of glycating effect, it's 7-fold. So why would you basically consume a food when you could basically go to galactose? Because galactose, through a 4-stage process, converts to glucose. And glucose is by far 1/7 of the glycating effects of fructose. So why consume fructose in terms of honey when you can basically consume, I've got Manuka honey. People think that, that I'm hostile against honey. I'm not hostile against honey. Okay. But I use it basically for, if I've basically got some sort of cut or some sort of thing, or I want to use it somewhere in a particular way, or a sore throat or whatever. Maybe I should have used some today, things like that. But I'm not hostile, but I'm not going to basically also sit there and guzzle down, 100 grams or more of sugar either in terms of honey. But, when it comes to galactose, on the other hand, I've got less of an issue with. And if you wanted to get some glucose from an animal product, Get it from dairy, raw dairy. Why do you have to go to honey? Anyway, I'm not saying that, honey has got some good properties. It is, I've even used it, like there are old-fashioned like mouthwashes that you can actually use a bit of honey in with salt and stuff like that. So I've used stuff like that, and it does have a sort of when it has these, when it's really raw honey and high quality honey like Manuka honey, it has a very good against pathogenic type bacteria in the mouth, in the oral sort of environment. So it can be beneficial, don't get me wrong. I mean, I've used it also for sore throats and stuff like that, like in tea. Warmed it up, put a bit of honey in the tea and consumed it on a late night, just to soothe the throat and stuff like that. So it has its place, but it's not a food, like plants, like a lot of plants and all that, they have hermetic effects. They have their role as, what our ancestors used them, because if you go all the way back, most of the modern plants today didn't exist. They're all hybridized. If you go back and look at, any plant, modern plant, it was a tiny little thing. And usually there were active compounds in that are lost in these hybridized versions that basically had hermetic effects or therapeutic effects that the shaman would use as a tribal leader. But even the chimps, you've seen what I actually did with the savannah chimps with Bart when I did that. What were they doing? They weren't going to trying to find, dig up tubers or anything like that, or trying to go and get some honey or whatever. No, they were trying to create sticks to basically maximize their meat consumption from other sources. Since they were in a savanna environment, there are less trees to support termite mounds. So you don't have those termite mounds in that sort of environment to the same prolific level that you would have, or bark, where they can rip off bark and they can find all these termites. So they have less access to that because women do less of the hunting, like in packs, like the men do. So they had to innovate, create something to access more protein and also more fat, because these are fattier, those little creatures. So what do? They innovate. They develop new hunting techniques, new tools, like probably early hominins did in the savannah as well, scavenged and created spear-type tips, and probably used their mouths as well or other means, or scraping them against rocks to basically make them sharper. So when the pressure is on, these sort of changes happen. But I can see that, but I can't see the justification where you don't have one thing, you don't have all year round sugar in the form of honey. It's seasonal. So how can you justify it all year round? It's got a growth factor, more deuterium. So how can you justify it even on that basis? So, and now he's bad-mouthing saturated fat, potentially. I don't know. I still have to see in the sort of context and the studies and how he's explained it. I don't know. I've got no idea. I'm definitely hostile against the view of phytosterols. That is completely wrong. When you overload the system with phytosterols, they will get in. They will outcompete cholesterol in the gut, and they will get in, and they will incorporate themselves in red blood cells, and they will make them less flexible. And it will mean you will get less oxygen in certain parts of the body which need it, which are much thinner blood vessels. That anybody can actually be promoting phytosterols in our community is beyond me. Just makes me absolutely furious for somebody to be promoting phytosterols. I don't give a shit what. If a diabetic basically, they can stick a phytosterol up their fucking ass, just fucking get off the carbs, as the snake, as Cole would say, fatty, get off the fucking carbs. If you want to be if you want to be insulin sensitive. God almighty. Anyway, that just, if he actually said that, I don't know what I can say. God almighty, the shit that he's been hanging around some of these vegans and stuff like that, trying to be nice and friendly and all that. Oh, fuck them. You know, God Almighty. You know, I don't know what is happening with some people in our community. Yeah. Anyway, vegetable oil. Vegetable oil will actually lead to obesity for the above mentioned reasons. Yep, vegetable oil. Yep, definitely. It causes a lot of issues. You know, so I've got no issue with PUFA, high PUFA from vegetable oils. In terms of aldehydes, very high, which rip lipid membranes. In terms of basically just a general sort of stuff in that. I'm not hostile to the same degree others in our community when it comes to PUFA from animal sources. You know, I think it's overrated and all that. I've been meaning to, I usually say I'm less concerned about PUFA in animal foods. I've got my reasons. I've sort of have tried to avoid upsetting people in the carnivore community and creating hostilities and all that. And it's probably one reason why I haven't actually really discussed this issue more thoroughly and my thinking behind it and the paradoxes that I've come across in the scientific literature. I want to have a chat with Bart before I basically sort of unleash a war, a new front in the carnivore community. So I'm holding off. But sometimes I get frustrated with a number of things. G'day, Jared. Good to see you, mate.
Hey, Harry. How's it going?
Just venting a bit.
Once again, I learned that I need to be ready to go the second I hit join because you're
exactly
quick on the trigger.
I thought Butter was keeping you under control. What is she doing?
She's going for walks lately, actually.
Oh.
This sounds silly to say because I'm aware of how stupid it looks, but I'm that guy that walks his cat. Here she is. This one. Come here. This one. She goes for walks around the block now. So I just put her on a harness on a lead and she'll just happily go for a stroll. Just stick on the sidewalk mostly, sniff the grass, takes her time. And she gets really frustrated if I don't do it for her now. So I think I've trapped myself with a habit for Butter.
Yes. So, yeah, I'm on the water, mate, today. I do have milk, raw milk, but I'm on the water. I'm on the water because I'm sort of I'm extending my time restricted feeding at the moment, and then I'm right after this. I'm gonna put my pants on, put some shoes on, and I'm gonna go over to Dad's because he's cooking up some beautiful pork steaks. So that will be very enjoyable.
Did I hear that does sound good? Did I hear correctly that you're not currently wearing pants then? If you need to put pants on to go to your dad's?
Well, when I leave here.
You heard it straight from the horse's mouth. Everybody that way. Everyone. This is a no pants stream.
Exactly. Always has been. That should excite a few people on this show in particular. And there she is.
Oh right, I need to.
Not much. A bit of banter. You know, me flying off the handle about a few things that I'm hearing, and in particular when people were saying phytosterols are good for you. No, they are not. Animal cholesterol is good for you. Plant cholesterol is not good for you. It outcompetes and does all sorts of nasty things. When it gets into your red blood cells, it stiffens them up. And they're not flexible. Like when they have cholesterol, they are flexible. They can get through the nooks and crannies of much thinner blood vessels, which is very important. Yeah, I do have, and where is it? That is the invite. If anybody wants to sort of take that down.
How did I not get? Sorry, there's a mosquito.
So that is the sort of invite. You can use that invite. I haven't actually put content on because the problem is that currently their server, when you go to try and actually upload your YouTube videos, it says that it can't do it at the moment because there's a backlog of all these other people.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, I think they've had a recent spike in traffic, so they're probably working to accommodate that on their end.
Yeah, and I just can't get anything. I don't know. Look, because I tried yesterday, and when I get back home this evening, I'll give it another go. And if I can't, then I may basically have to manually put some of these stuff up because it's not going to get up there any other way. So it is a bit annoying, but what can I do? It's just, I have noticed this morning when I looked, there was about 10 people. Go over there and become followers. I need more people to become followers. The YouTube end isn't really growing as to the same level, unfortunately. So, which is a bit annoying. Actually, I
am likewise on library, but I haven't even given it a profile photo yet because similarly, it was having issues uploading the picture I used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, if people want to look me up, I'm on there, and I will be putting stuff up.
Yeah, I'll put it into a stroll mode so people have got plenty of time to basically write it down. In that way, I will go back to the comments section, and yeah, I have. That's what I've been. Yep, it's just right there, the invite. But I haven't got any stuff on there yet, which is a bit of a pain in the ass because it won't upload my YouTube content yet because Anyway, I'm going to give it another go tonight, and hopefully I may have to consider doing some manual uploads, which is going to be a pain in the ass because and a lot of my other stuff is also more hours. It's not like the 2-hour things, so I'll have to go through and start cutting them into 2-hour slots. This may be the last 3-hour long thing, and I may actually consider going to like the 2-hour type streams. So 2 hours and then doing another 2-hour type thing in order to get them to upload on the library. So we'll see. I'm going to play around with it. I first need to get the existing content and then sort of probably next month consider doing this sort of move. But I need to sort out a couple of areas and details in that. Not much, Miss T2. God almighty. All those rants that did you enjoy those? God almighty. You didn't miss much. I just Harry ranting, I mean, it wasn't, nothing important, They probably were. Do they have a time machine? Do they have a time machine as well? They went back in time. Interesting. Yes, if they have a time machine, explains everything. They must be with the lizard people. Yes. Loved this answer, Harry. The fate of different Native American tribes. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. There are differences between the two. And beautiful, lovely, I love you, StreamYard. You just basically jumped again. Yep. Fantastic.
Yeah, it'd be nice if you knew when it was going to happen, right? Like it seems to happen from when the chat backs up a certain amount, it only saves so many.
Yeah, exactly. And then I lose my spot, and it just goes, and I'm going, fuck, So yeah. Anyway, so my GP wanted me to see a specialist for my high cholesterol, and he finally called me this week. He wants me to get a CAC. Any reason for me to decline? It's up to you.
Yeah,
it's your health, your body. You don't have to basically. I know it's low radiation. Look, it's up to you. A CAC score is a good thing. It at least tells you where you are, but it doesn't tell you where you've come from. So if you find basically, it's like for myself, I went and did, because my cardiologist asked me to do, and I had to go in and actually do these scans and all that. And obviously I've had regression, but I had something to base myself. So I knew where I was and where I am now. But, if you don't know where you were and you get a high number, you may go, oh, shit. Doesn't mean the diet. You may have even had a higher number before.
Right.
So you got to be careful how you interpret your results in that regard. So in that regard, look, it's good to know where you are. And it means if you do have a higher number, then it basically means you probably even had a higher number before that. And it may mean you need to consider a different strategy in the way you go about it. That means higher doses of MK4, proteolytic enzymes, and a whole lot of other things to incorporate in your lifestyle that can basically bring down those things much faster. See, proteolytic enzymes have the ability, a lot of them, especially the one from silkworms, it goes in and actually can clear up all dead tissue. So it can clear up a lot of this sort of, in joints, in your heart, a muscle, a lot of this sort of tissue that needs to be cleared out. Plus, removing the calcium and putting it in the right spots is really important by having more MK4 in your diet, because MK4 directs where it goes. So if you've got basically, because you even need to suppress viruses, you need basically to use MK4 to direct the calcium in the right spots to suppress in the soft tissue viruses. So you don't get things like, shingles and all these other sort of things, or that people get. You still may get, but you won't get into the sort of severe level like some people. Because some people, like I know somebody that has recently got, and she's been under a lot of stress because she's in Australia. She can't get back to her native country, and she can't see her son. And she's been stressing out because she misses her son. And so she's struggling. And so as a consequence, she's broken out, in that regard. I mean, her diet is a carbohydrate-based diet. So, but I think that even on the carbohydrate diet, I don't think you sometimes possibly need other factors as well to play in, because she wasn't on an extreme highly carbohydrate diet, or eating a lot of junk stuff like that. She doesn't. It's a much, in some regards, a more traditional. So it's not optimal, but it's not refined crap or out of a box in that regard. But stress is a big player with these things. And so, and stress is also a big player. Lack of sleep, something I need to learn, like last night. But anyway, getting enough sleep, getting up early. But also other things that are really important that basically have a deleterious effects on your health. So, how much PUFA you consumed in the past. That'll play a role, like a lot of vegetable oils, which I did quite a bit. How much refined sugars. All these are factors that are going to play in where your CAC score is going to be. So, look, you may be a hyper-responder, which is another thing. I think Jared is also a bit of a hyper-responder as well, where I'm not. Mine, as I said, even when I went in for my cardiovascular, I was in the sort of normal range and considered, a 5% anomaly according to the doctors, but I was still there with an issue. So it's not cholesterol that's driving these things. It's basically, pretty much these issues of toxic foods in our environment. When you're consuming toxic oils, you're getting a lot of aldehydes, which are just ripping apart cell membranes and doing a lot of damage, and a lot of reactive byproducts that are coming from these high deuterium type rancid oils. So Yes. But look, ignore the high cholesterol. That's a non-issue, because if you don't if you don't have the enough receptors to recycle your cholesterol, and it has a higher resident time in your bloodstream, you can artificially lower it, which isn't a good thing, because health-wise. But resident, you can take seed oils; they will lower it as well. Been proven, but they do it by destroying and damaging the ApoB receptor, which means that it ends up in your in your arteries as really damaged lipids, causing a lot of reactivity, which macrophages then need to clean up and sort out. And the body, if it actually then does damage to the endothelial lining, then it needs to patch the job as well. So, you don't want that sort of shit in your diet, obviously. But if you had that in your past, you may get a high CAC. But it's better to know where you're at. And if you've got a high CAC, then basically, send me an email. I'll tell you what to take and what to do to lower it. Anyway, let's move on before StreamYard decides to basically, definitely. You're cleaning out the garbage. Fasting is really good in cleaning out the garbage. Mm-hmm. So it's a very important time restricted feeding, that sort of stuff. Never trust anything with salad letters in their names. I know who you're talking about.
He's mostly right.
He is. Look, I probably I don't get enough time to look at a lot of content. That's the thing. I probably need to check out some of his latest and see exactly what he's actually saying. Because what people understand somebody's saying and what he's actually saying can be two different things.
Should always go for the primary source.
Yeah. And that's why I said, but if he's saying that, that's why I said I couldn't actually comment on the saturated poly and whatever he's saying there, because I haven't heard exactly from the horse's mouth, so to speak. But when it comes to phytosterols, that's not something you miss. When somebody says that phytosterols are good to make you more insulin sensitive, but ignore the ramifications of damage that affects the red blood cells and all that, and oxygenation in different parts of the tissue, peripheral tissue, where you've got much thinner blood vessels, and plus also in the heart, because even in the heart, some people actually, and this is a lady that I actually met when I had my cardiovascular issues, and they couldn't even stent her. A lot of her blood vessels in her heart were very narrow. So she was one of those people that just didn't have really large blood vessels, very narrow blood vessels in large parts of her heart. And this is where her problem came. So she didn't have that. She literally need to come in, have more blood. They put her on blood thinners and all sorts of things. And I don't know whether that's a genetic thing or whatever, because we never got into a really deep conversation for me to really understand what was going on with her. But can you imagine now incorporating a lot of phytosterols or taking even supplements, because they do sell supplements of this crap, and basically then preventing your ability for your heart to get enough oxygen? What would happen to the heart muscle? In her case,
it gets stronger to cope with the lack of oxygen. No.
Yes, she'd have heart failure long run. So anyway, yes, we won't go into that, but yes, I'm flabbergasted that he would be promoting phytosterols anyway. Plant cholesterols, fuck me. You guys have an addiction problem? You need a consultancy. I had to say that. Bart's not around, so I can say anything. He won't come after me. He won't troll me. What is my favourite troll saying? You gotta hear the end. You're not gonna hear the end of this now. I got them all after you. God, the hostility, T1. God. Keep up the good work.
Toxic community living up to its name.
God, exactly.
Everyone knows diet communities are toxic. Veganism, carnivore, it's all the same.
Exactly. Nah, this community is even more toxic than the vegan community, may I say. They'll liven them up. He says it takes insulin to make a fat cell grow. Yeah, that's true. Yeah. Without insulin, you ask the people that have got diabetes 1, they don't have insulin and they waste away. You cannot have growth, whether muscle or adipose tissue growth, without insulin. That's 100 years of knowledge when it comes to insulin. It's not new. Nothing new about that. So animal fats make fat cells insulin resistant. What? And doesn't allow them to grow. Oh, you're talking about how saturated fats basically. Yes. That's a different mechanism. At the adipose, yes. At the adipose, yes. At the cell level, like at the muscle cell level and all that, that's what I thought you were talking. Yeah, that is correct. If he's actually saying at the actual fat cell, the adipose cell, that it becomes insulin resistant, that means it won't take up energy. Yes, that's true. So as long that will only reverse if you're basically you become insulin resistant at the periphery, at the muscle cell. Okay, yeah, that's fine. That I agree with that. Now it's been explained to me. That's if Paul said that, yes, because I was wondering, well, what the fuck's Paul saying, But if he's saying that, but polyunsaturated fats make the fat cell insulin sensitive, and they do grow. Yes and no. Yes, if they come from, if they're excessive amounts, they can have this sort of growth characteristic, but there's a threshold, so it's not any amount, it's a specific amount. When you get over a certain threshold, that's when it does do that, so because otherwise going to zero PUFA, you would be dead. You need essential fatty acids, but you don't need a lot in that regard. But at the same time, I will discuss this with Bart about higher levels of animal-based PUFA that, you can still get fat from, but it's not causing other deleterious type health issues, in a sense. But it's in the presence, again, of carbohydrates. So all these studies will be in the presence of carbohydrates. So, but any lipid, because how can I put it? No lipid on its own is basically without consequences. Certain fats, for instance, like saturated fat, stearic, palmitate, less, the MUFAs of this world, they will tend to actually exhibit a certain, like a reverse electron chain within the actual inner, and they will basically create a Ross signaling effect within the mitochondria, which basically then tells the cell to actually biogenesis more mitochondria. So only these saturated fats can cause this reverse electron transport. I've explained this on a number of occasions. You can go back even when I was doing before I even had my channel, I explained it in chats with Bart about reverse electron transport and the ratios. And the highest ratio is stearic acid. Palmitate is the next highest ratio. So these saturated fats have this ability to induce this biogenesis of new mitochondria, the capacity for the body to become more insulin sensitive by being able to burn more energy, to utilize more energy as a consequence. So, and as a consequence, if you're using you're using energy. You don't want to uptake energy or store energy in that regard. So that's why you get the reverse between insulin resistance at different parts of the body. So it's like muscle sparing in a keto or carnivore or when you're fasting. There are mechanisms there to prevent, it's like your thyroid will go down, but it goes uniformly down. It's not pathogenic. It's basically to spare muscle so you don't burn away muscle. Okay. But when you're on basically glucose, you throw glucose in like the vegans do, they actually push up the thyroid. And as a consequence, by doing that, they create this very severe catabolic effect because you can no longer spare muscle because you're actually pushing up, your metabolic, those metabolic pathways that are actually will burn through more, will require more energy. And so will basically pull, because they can't pull adipose because you're basically eating carbs and pushing up insulin, and you're basically, storing, you're in storage mode. So all you can do is basically take away. And that's why in a ketogenic diet and in a fasted state or whatever, your body naturally is designed to prevent the loss of muscle mass. Unless you get to a stage where you've actually burnt through all your adipose fat, like if you're somebody back in the 80s in Ethiopia where you really had severe starvation, eventually you burnt through all your fat, and then basically your body starts, catabolizing its muscle. And eventually a bit after that, you will die. But, yeah, but when it comes to, polyunsaturated fats from animals, first of all, animals, because somebody actually said that Paul said that pork was a bad thing. But look, the ratios between beef and a corn-fed beef or pork, they're going to be slightly different. One is going to have more omega-6s to omega-3s. It's just, but even pastured pork will still have more omega-6s. It's just the nature of the beast, and chicken will even have more. But there is a fundamental proviso here. And as I've said, within 100 grams of all the red meats, excluding, and I'll make this clear, excluding lamb and mutton, which is older lamb, you basically have 0.5 grams, half a gram per 100 grams or 3.5 ounces of meat. Okay? So that's what you have. And the lowest is goat, which is 0.2 grams per 100, 3.5 ounces. Okay? Lamb is 1.5. And basically, and nobody would consider lamb as being, unhealthy. And when it comes to chicken, it's 3. So it's 6 times magnitude compared to pork. Lumping pork and chicken together is wrong in my book. Completely wrong. Because if you're having basically, let's say 300 grams of pork or 400 grams, or 350 grams, for instance, you'll be at about 1.7 grams of PUFA, which is what our ancestors consumed as total PUFA. So how is that going to basically cause you a lot of issues is beyond me. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense in that regard. But I can actually also show, studies, clinical studies, a case study in particular that I've talked about in the past, but I'll need to chat with Bart before I basically go full tong and upset everybody in the community and have everybody hating me. But anyway, on the PUFA subject, I've got a slightly different opinion. compared to plant-based and animal-based. And I think the animal-based type, the way people describe it, is a bit overblown. When it comes to plant-based, yes, I agree. I wouldn't touch any PUFA from plants anyway. Keep it very down, especially if it's highly refined. Unless it's basically like in olive oil, you've got some PUFA. If it's cold pressed, never been heated, never been damaged or anything like that, it's going to be less of a problem. But I would be severely, anybody arguing that cooked animal fats, even if they've got PUFA, are going to be worse than these vegetable shit. Because I can show studies where pork has some of the lowest aldehydes, actually has lower aldehydes than basically, and reactive products, than even basically, butter. And butter's got less PUFA in it, but will generate more of these reactive products. So there's a lot of confounding. There's a lot of stuff out there. There's a lot of myths. I like to bust them, as you know, and upset a lot of people. And I know I'm going to upset a lot of people and end up some people hating me in this community, but that's just how it goes. I like to find these paradoxes, and I've even got stuff where I can actually show, like from animal sources, up to 17.5 grams of PUFA, which is sort of like the standard American diet for some people levels. And these people completely healthy. This person was completely healthy, not an issue, for multiple years, outlived his own parents. So, and Okinawans, Sardinians, all these longevity people, So I think it's, some people sometimes have this sort of reductionist approach when they're looking at these things, and they jump on their bandwagon, and it's good to sort of hit the pony because it gets a lot of clickbait or whatever. But I look for discrepancies in the science. That's why I say I'm into no bullshit. I look at these discrepancies and the paradoxes, and I say, well, you cannot have a paradox and say that hypothesis or that view is valid, because it isn't in this case, in that case, and that case. So that's where I come from. It's like somebody basically saying that, they look at time dilation and they get different readings when they do experiments, or different readings from gravity or whatever. That means then that there is no consistent value of gravity. So it would be it would have a relativistic characteristic. Not that it does, but I'm just saying as an example. It's the same thing. You would have to change your hypothesis in that regard. So before I basically sort of cause a lot of friction within the community, I'll have a chat with Bart on this subject. I'll lay my cards out on my views and what I've come across and stuff like that, and see what he thinks. We'll have a chat, but it doesn't mean I'm not going to eventually basically poke at everyone and basically put it out there. I will, but because I have a lot of respect for Bart, I don't want to basically, I value my friendship is basically the reason. So I want, before I basically start going out there and then people go around to Bart and start blasting him and say, oh, Harry just put this video out and saying this, this, and this. I want to have a chat with him first, and then basically sit down and discuss this and show what I've come across and what he thinks. So it'll be interesting. But then eventually I will put something out. If we end up disagreeing on certain things, so be it, such is life. But I don't think we should hide things from anyone. Anyway, you're an addicted bird. Yeah, we know that. Yes, bird brain is an addicted bird. Yeah, I'm shocking at getting addicted to things. Tell us more, bird brain. Tell us more, T2. we would like to know. Well, some of the trolls on this channel would like to know, especially T1. Well, Battlestar Galactica, Galacticos. Yes. That's the sort of stuff that Jared's actually consuming right now. Very inappropriate of him.
Sorry, Butter just hanging out the window here. I don't want her to. Yeah, there you go.
Ah, well, she can land on her feet. She's a cat.
I'm more worried about her running away.
Oh, that's true. Go feral.
Yeah, she desperately wants to be feral.
So what's Luke saying? Honey really is good for dry season. A few grams can stop sore throat. Yeah. Look, that's the only reason I sort of use it. For things like that, when I get a bit of a cold, it just sits there. And actually, the more you leave it in the ferments, the higher those sort of the properties that basically have that sort of antimicrobial sort of effect, from what I've been told. Look, I know Dad's youngest brother used to consume honey. He's still alive. He has his own beehives in Greece, and he uses it a lot in sort of medicinal reasons and stuff like that. He doesn't sit down guzzling down liters and liters of it, but he basically tries to get the sort of what he calls the Queen's sort of honey type, and he uses that for medicinal purposes and a whole lot of other things. So, it's got its uses. And, I've and this was back in the 80s, so actually late 70s. So I'm aware, I know about honey collecting and stuff like that. I've have people in the family, so to speak, so I'm well aware. And he was a prolific reader as well. I don't know whether he still is, but he used to read all these different books about the different things about bees and and pollen and all sorts of things, and certain types of hermetic effects that it had way back then. So he was like a treasure trove of information regarding those sort of things. So, I mean, when people talk about honey to me, I go, yeah, I've pretty much heard most things from my uncle and many others. So you're not telling me anything new in that regard. But, I wouldn't actually have it as a class A food. If I was to pick a steak or honey, I'd go for the steak, is what I'm trying to say. Good to hear, Luke. Keep it up. Hope Kitty's helping you along the way with all. And where is she today?
So whenever I experiment with honey, I find it makes me anxious the next day, or throws off my mood at least. And I'd mentioned this on Bart's Discord, and Dolan suggested to me that it could be the salicylates in the honey. That honey's very high in salicylates.
That's right.
Do you can you elaborate a little bit on why that happens?
I'm not sure exactly why it happens. I do know that salicylates are high in honey, and people around the tropics, Mediterranean, and all that don't have salicylate issues. And that's why I also say that it's like coconut. Coconut also has salicylates. So, and then I usually say to people, why are you a Northern European ancestry, and why are you consuming avocados, coconut, and basically honey? It makes no sense to me, because why are you causing yourself certain types of low grade reactivity? Others actually even have more higher grade. I've heard people say that they are more reactive to salicylates. I mean, people in the Mediterranean, people in the Middle East, parts of Africa have no issues with, and Southeast Asia have no issues with salicylates, because it's been part of our diet for thousands of years. So we've basically got the genetics to basically deal with salicylates. But people that come from northern parts of Europe, so Central Asia, Northern Europe, Mongolia, this sort of northern part of China, Mongolia, that sort of area, those sort of parts of the world, and sort of northern part of the Americas, the sort of the Inuit type, these sort of areas. These people just have never really had foods high in salicylates in their diet, and so a lot of them, will either have low levels of reactivity or high levels of reactivity. So it depends. But why would you eat foods that are basically going to create some level of reactivity or even promote them? So I tend to not promote things that are going to cause those sort of issues. And when people ask me about those sort of foods, I usually point out these reasons and I say, where are you from? You're from Northern Europe? I would say no. If you're from Southern Europe, it's not optimal, but you can do it without any, not really any real major issue.
Yeah, I think I might have to experiment a little bit with some maple syrup or molasses in the same place that I would take honey.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm going to have carbs at all, that is.
So earlier I asked Bart about rotten and fermented meats. What are your views on it, its role in human evolutionary history? Look, we started as scavengers, so we consumed quite a bit of it. I occasionally have fermented meats. I sometimes have basically a lot of cured and sort of meats that are basically raw. And because they're cured and raw, or smoked, in many cases also they are fermented in a sense because they're basically sitting there just fermenting over time with those bacteria, those acidophilus type bacteria. So, and it makes it softer and all that. Look, I enjoy those sort of meats. Look, evolutionary, we've consumed quite a bit, but at the same time, when you consume a lot of plants, and you've actually pushed your pH up into more, and you've basically also potentially increased your H. pylori or other maybe even overgrowth into your stomach, then you will struggle to get those low pHs which you need for rotten or fermented foods. And when we talk rotten fermented foods, we're talking about even dairy. I mean, I love rotten cheeses. I literally will eat rotten cheeses, and I also love blue cheese and stuff like that, and fermented cheeses of all sorts of things, kefir, so I'm into that sort of stuff. I know Bart isn't, it's just not part of the things that he's grown up with, and so he balks at them. Pim does consume that sort of stuff, and this is where she always berates him or has a bit of a go at him. I mean, I've even had chats with him, private chats, and she'll have a bit of a go at him about doing this sort of stuff where she's more into the sort of foods that are rare, cooked.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Bart also, he cooks his steak incorrectly, but, I forgive him for it. You can't be right about everything.
No, but he also admits that he does overcook these sort of things and does those sort of things, and he knows that they're not absolutely optimal, but he says, I just can't eat the other stuff, But I also think that he hasn't tried, because like everything, it takes a while to sort of adjust to certain types of tastes and smells. And once you do, it's less of an issue for people. But then again, some people may have, let's say, from a young age, they may have associated very strongly within their own mental sort of synapses, a certain strong aversion to certain smells and tastes, and so they will react far more. It's really hard for them. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what Bart eats or what I eat or what you want to eat or whatever. That's irrelevant. You go to Bart because he basically unravels the BS in the science. He pulls it apart and shows you where they're basically, pulling the wool over your head. That's why you go to Bart. You don't go to Bart. And it's the same thing. Like people ask me, what do you do? What I eat in a day? Because I'm not really into that sort of stuff. What I eat is my business. What you want to eat is your business. I don't basically sit there with a little cane and say, you have not eaten that appropriate food. What I talk about is I look at ancestral stuff. I look at basically the historical stuff. I look at the science, and I do it in a way where I present the information in an easy to digest form. So somebody who's not science versed can understand, or has an understanding of archaeology or science, or these sort of, or understanding, logic like dialectics and stuff like that. I try to explain it in a very more simplified form for people who are non-sciencey to understand it. That's what I do. I pull it apart and I pull the arguments, and I also show the paradoxes. People say this, well, I can show you an example of something different. So that can't be true, or at least it can't be true in all instances, because I can show you something completely different, an argument. And what's the strength of my argument, and what's the strength of their argument in terms of statistical strength, in terms of the science that they can bring to bear. And that's how I sort of argue my cases. And so in a way, me and Bart complement each other. He's probably, when it comes to nutrition, when it comes to things like physiology, sports physiology in particular, and things like cardiopathophysiciology and stuff like that, that's where he's really good at pulling apart the science, explaining the BS, and basically, showing you how these people in the different sort of communities, how they manipulate their sort of their message. What I do is something similar, but in a different fashion. So I sort of simplify it, make it easy to digest, but also look at from a historical view. So I look at basically things in terms of culture, history, in terms of anthropology, the anthropological sort of side of things. So I look at from that. I look at the other, the not only hominins, but also the other parts of the great ape family and all that. So that's what I bring to bear, that I've got this extensive sort of like a encyclopedic type knowledge of all these different aspects, and I'm able to bring them together and present them in a new way that you probably haven't heard anywhere else. So that's, and at the same time showing the discrepancies of the arguments that people are putting out there and pulling apart those sort of BS arguments. And there's Butter again. Hi, Butter. She just, yeah, you know what she did? Put the paw there and just got rid of him. Well, she sorted him out. She just knocked you off the web.
She did that thing she does. She wasn't even walking on my computer, wasn't even near the backspace, and then she just kicks it with her back paw or something without.
I'll sort him out.
Well, I don't let her walk over my computer for that reason, right? But then she still finds her way.
T1, T2. I can eat honey if it's cooked through. What can I say? That says it all. He's not bad mouthing saturated fat. He's just saying, yeah. I understood it. Yeah, but before, the way it was actually presented to me, it wasn't explained to me that we're talking about the adipose tissue. Christina didn't. There's a difference. Insulin, when we're talking about, like, even when you're in a ketotic state, you can have peripheral resistance. That means you will downregulate the GLUT4 receptor, and because you don't want to take in too much glucose, because basically it's there a bit for the brain for certain functions and for the red blood cells. Red blood cells are exclusive glucose. So that is why you have to have that sort of, but that's a completely different physiological state than basically engaging the Randall cycle and literally downregulating both, the GLUT4 receptor and CD36. So both receptors get, so you don't take in fat or glucose at all, because you've got full energy. You've got too much energy in the cell. So the body, you get this insulin resistance where, because of the Randall cycle, and the gradient of that resistance will depend on how much energy is flowing in your bloodstream. That means is circulating, that can't basically get into cells to be utilized. And then the body, because it's got these sensors, which it actually senses what the sort of the energy in this flowing through the system, it will then basically reduce, and it just doesn't have to be PUFA like from seed oils. It can be basically also just carbohydrates. If they've got nowhere to go, they will basically be converted to go through the liver, get converted to triglycerides, exported out, and these fats will eventually, if they can't be uptaken because somebody's eaten a lot, they're sitting around, they're being very sedentary. Now, if you go for a walk and you use a lot of that energy, like a long walk, you can actually lower the gradient and potentially even push yourself out of a state of insulin resistance at the cell level, in the muscle level, and start taking up some of these triglycerides. So they potentially may not all get stored. So it's such a dynamic system in that regard. So insulin resistance is not a bad thing. It's a bad thing when it's chronic. That means energy cannot be uptaken because you've got too much, because some of these people are feeding every 2 hours or less, meals and snacks, and multiple snacks in many cases. I see them at work when I'm at home now, working from home, but when I was working in the office, there was a sugar bowl with a lot of candy and all that, and they were basically there constantly every half an hour nearly, some of them. So, yeah, and the bodies did show the difference. Let's say no more. I have some honey. My friend has an apiary. Yeah, okay, harvests her own. Yep. Yeah. So use it for sore throats and cuts. Yep, good. Yep, that's what I do as well. Yep. I'll actually show you the honey that I actually buy. Give me a sec. Just bad mouth me, please, Jared.
God, can you believe that he has the audacity to criticize me for being underdressed that one time, like 3 months ago, and then he doesn't wear pants on tonight's stream? I'm not bitter about it, I swear. Now's your chance if you have questions for me. I'm reading the present part of the chat. I actually can't even see how far back Harry is. Kayak talking about Dunning-Kruger effect. Yeah, that's why I mentioned that Frank Tufano and Vegan Gains deserve each other, because of that. Neither of them are aware of their own ignorance. I can't just comment on what the chat's talking about, because I wouldn't want that on the record for Harry's video.
Okay. I've made myself very sweet.
That was an unusually long absence there. Usually it's like you stand up and then you're already sitting back down again before you're out of your seat.
Pure Tasmanian honey. Yeah, which is really high in the sort of those beneficial antimicrobial things.
I've heard that.
So you can see I've consumed a bit. So, but in small amounts now and then for sore throats, or in I'm just getting it all over my fingers because it was a bit out on the surface. Damn. As I said, make my hands sweet.
No, you can lick them off because your stream is good enough you can eat it. Oh no. Oh no, Luke, did you catch that? Catch that, Luke? What Photoshop's going to come of that one?
You probably did. You probably did. G'day, Kate. Good to see you. I'm glad.
That's a good comment after you just look at your fingers.
Uh,
Although I wouldn't say you were licking your fingers suggestively, I guess. That was...
Yell at them.
I mean, I think there's a line between like abusing or bullying somebody that way.
Exactly.
But I do agree that fat shame, there's a social tool set that's being neglected with not being allowed to comment on another's appearance even when they look bad and it's for their own benefit.
Nah, I'm kidding. Don't worry, Christina. You know, nothing you said. It's just sometimes, the way you people word things. Yeah, don't worry about it. Look, we got a bit of humor out of it. Thank you. T1, take off your blinkers, never misses the opportunity to rub it in. Exactly. It's all this, exciting stuff. I'm being very animated. Uncle Harry almost going bananas due to some carnival community member behavior. Ha ha. Hey. Yes, yes.
All right, that's me. I wasn't ever big into Harry Potter.
And there she is. And Kitty's here as well.
Here I am. Okay, so we're roughly an hour behind in the chat then.
Yeah, I know. We're way behind.
I can't even see those comments.
Yeah. I know. I should start moving through. Look, I'm going to miss possibly a few people. Hate me after, please.
If you're going to skip ahead, I have one person's question copied. I'll put it into the private chat for you because...
Yep.
Kayag11 has a specific question that he asked you in Bart's stream last night.
I have. Okay, yeah. Give me a sec. I had you on my mind last few days. I've discovered celiacs have trouble absorbing choline, so developed a fatty liver. Thanks, so I could do my own investigation. Yep. Look, that's good. Look, if you've basically, things like your gut wall and stuff like that, you need to work on it. And it basically means that you need to fix up your with things like bone broths, and you can have soups, like chicken soups. You can have things like egg soups and stuff like that, because you're going to get more of the sort of gelatinous glutamic acid, glycine, and those sort of aminos in there that will help with the gut lining and all that. And as long as you've taken the other stuff out that's caused a lot of these issues, that will heal over time and get better, and you'll become a better absorber of choline. You may also have the genetics that I have, in terms of choline metabolism or methylation. So you may need to consider, you may also have the MTHFR gene, which is that means the other pathway may be inhibited like me. So I've got at both ends. I've sort of explains why I had a lot of issues with methylating away homocysteine for all these years. But now I do know, and I fix it with riboflavin, rich foods, and with choline. And sometimes when I can't be bothered with eggs, I use choline supplements. Yes,
I've been
none of us are perfect.
I've been experimenting with a choline supplement for 2.5 weeks now, and I'm quite sure it's helping. So I'm going to set a little bit of money aside for some genetic analysis at some point in the near future to confirm if I have that choline metabolism issue.
Yep. No.
Or choline synthesis, I mean.
Yep. So, since lamb fat is higher in PUFA, would it make it worse to fry things in? No, not really. Not really. It's still relatively low. 1.5 isn't it? See, animal fats are also bound in a certain way in the fat, in the sort of the fats, sort of the way they're actually incorporated in the fat tissue of an animal is much more stable than in a plant form. Plant form is basically it's basically a fluid at room temperature and is very reactive to oxygen, where the animal fats are much better bound and have far less reactivity. Doesn't mean that they don't. If you cook an animal fat, it will still produce some level of reactive products, some level of oxidative byproducts and aldehydes, but it will be very small in comparison, and that's the difference. So, so I wouldn't worry. Okay. Were you putting something in the private chat or not?
Oh yeah, here.
So I'm just going to...
This was his question verbatim.
Now just everything got lost. Thank you, StreamYard. I've just lost my whole spot. Anyway, I'll go to the private chat. Why can't I put that in there? Okay, I can't actually put it in there for whatever reason. I'll have to try and find it. Nope. Okay, so I can't actually put it in there for whatever reason. Hold on. I'll just copy it to the main one because I don't think that from the private one you can actually show it. I'll just put it there under my name, and that's gonna make it much easier. So go back. Yeah, I can highlight my own.
Yeah.
Don't go. Okay. So what is he asking me? Hey Harry, would you mind explaining the complexities of enzyme deuterium? So you're talking about the hydrogen deuterium exchange. Is that what you're actually sort of because you're talking about histones. The histones, let me just explain to other people. If it is histones, just put down that it is histones that you're actually talking about, because there is histone 1 to 5. So I suspect that's what the H1 is meaning, because you've put a space there, so it's a bit confusing for me. So basically, histones are basically these proteins that wrap the part of what is called the chromatin. They wrap the chromosomes or the DNA. They sort of compress it so it actually fits in the actual and so also they're involved in methylation, so silencing genes. Now, I think you may be talking about the hydrogen, in terms of hydrogen deuterium exchange, where you've got the ability, depending on what the actual the gradient, you can basically, as a consequence in the mitochondria, because of the level of sort of deuterium, it can actually slow down those proteins that are going through the complexes from the matrix into the intermembrane space. And so it's having an effect on that, and it's sort of slowing down that. It also slows down the redoxes between, so the actual electrons flowing through. I think that's what you're actually talking about, and affecting the transcription of these sort of processes. I think that's what you're actually sort of saying in that regard. Now, what that can do is, if you've got this sort of like a bottleneck or holding back to some extent of the electrons, you can actually get some bleeding out of the inner membrane of the actual membrane itself of electrons, which can cause some level of ROS in the actual thing. Also, that can have an effect, especially after the complex 4, and that can actually, because that part is actually like has a poof, it's a sort of a polyunsaturated cardiolipin, and that can actually get remodeled because of PUFA. But that's a sort of another issue. But also that is very prone to, if you're having these too much backing up because of too much deuterium, and the sort of the inability to get a good gradient to basically work the ATP synthase, you can actually have this backing up effect. I'm not sure if that's what you're actually sort of wanting to understand, because that's what can happen. That can actually really block up the whole sort of the electron chain as an effect, so it doesn't actually produce enough energy. It slows down the actual ATP synthase, or the sort of nanomotor complex 5 at the end. And so where you every millisecond, you get about a couple of protons that go through at each one of those cycles, 3 I think, and so that can actually impede that and sort of create a lower gradients, and also more of these reactive effects in the actual inner mitochondrial membrane itself. So I think you may be sort of in those terms. I don't know whether I've explained it well.
Yep, he said that's perfect. Thank you for understanding.
Okay. Good. Because I'm trying to keep it as simple so everybody can understand. I'm trying to use it, and as I said, that cardiolipin at the end of complex 4, just don't even worry about the term, what I used. That's just basically a sort of a type of arachidonic acid in a form that is the natural form that basically allows things to flow properly through to ADP synthase, or to the complex, the nanomotors that I always talk about. Don't even worry about the ATP thing. It's just the nanomotors there to create energy. Let's keep it simple for everyone. So that's the key thing. I hope that sort of explains that sort of thing. There is a number of areas, I should basically get into at some point on deuterium. There is a number of areas in terms of the methylation. That means histone, sort of in terms of methylation, where we still don't know enough about how deuterium is basically affecting the sort of the epigenetic side yet. There's a lot of views of how it's actually happening, some of the signaling stuff that's actually happening, but there's a lot of question marks exactly how it's sort of happening. And at some stage we'll probably have to talk about the controversy, but that would be a half-hour or hour discussion, so I'll leave that for another time in that regard. Thanks, mate. Okay, now I have to find my actual spot. Where was I? I love StreamYard, mate. I love StreamYard.
It's easy to start looking. Just scroll all the way to the top.
Yeah. I need to go to the top. Okay, so we got Shell with Bird Brain. Okay, a bit of comedy there. Cognitive dissonance. Yep, there's plenty of that. Meat will kill. Yep. And depends where you insert the carrot, how damaging it can be.
There's only one place that I insert something and call it eating. Maybe things are different in Tasmania.
Well, we have our strange ways. Hey. Apparently,
That's
we're
not what people mean by down under, Harry.
Hey, we're the two-headed monsters down here. We usually at birth we cut one of the heads off. Apparently, this is how the mainlanders describe us. Our so-called fellow countrymen describe us as the two-headed monsters from the south. Isn't it really nice? So it's so lovely being part of a federation. I mean, the New Zealanders were basically in the early constitution. They had a chance of being part of the federation. They opted out. I can understand, after all those Kiwi jokes about them with sheeps and all that, their sort of relationships. And I mean, everybody's got a right to have a relationship with different animals in their own way. Is Bart reacting or is he gone?
He's reacting.
I thought so. I'm half Australian. Yeah, mate. Yeah, show us the passport. We'll have to organise a revocation. Yes, I love brie. I love it. I've actually got another two slabs in there.
I was just eating some at the start of the stream. Well, I mean, a half hour into the stream when I got here.
So I think I've gone too far back. So people like Vegan Gaze have no empathy for, Vegan Gaze has no empathy. He's non-discriminatory. He basically is non-discriminatory to everyone. He hates everyone. So where a lot of other people sort of discriminate towards certain people, he just basically hates everyone. So, it's not specific people, it's just everyone. If you're a cute furry animal, as I said, if you want to talk to Richard, you become a cute furry animal or dress in a cute furry animal suit, and basically you will be loved by Richard. It was bound to happen. Here it is. Oops. Ah, damn. Go back. Don't do that to me.
Nicely done as always, Luke.
Perfect. Yes, I would have to agree with you on that, Jared, completely.
Uh-oh. Harry definitely just left by accident. Oh no, this has happened before. He'll be back. There he goes.
I unshared myself rather than this. Oh, for fuck's sake. No. Fuck me. Yeah.
I knew you'd be back before long.
Yeah, I'm an old bastard. I told you. Been telling you.
I only ever get like one sentence into filling dead air for you, and you're back.
I hope it was comical. Did you bag me at least?
I was about to, but you're too quick on the draw.
So as usual, I've sort of lost my. Hey, well, do you want to come on and show us your extra amateur?
Bart, that spelling is some serious amateur hour shit.
Yeah, exactly. Mate, piss poor. We know. I'll send him an invite. If he wants to come on, he can come on. If he doesn't,
I've been doing my best to comment where he might.
Now what may happen is Pim may drag him away. And he comes here. Okay, send the link. I'm sending you the link, mate. Just send it to you.
Get a fourth window for butter. If she would sit still, I would set that up on my phone. Totally. Sometimes she's just in here hanging out in the background, but she's not right now.
No, he's a Kiwi, mate. He's a Kiwi. Kiwis are into sheep, you know. Bit of mutton, bit of older mutton. Yep. Now it's us Greeks that are, into goats. We like a bit of buck. It has to excite us a bit.
There's butter. Look, buttertail. But is Bart coming? Is he trying this?
Oh, I've sent him the link.
We have a pregnant pause here, waiting for him to join. I don't need to make amateur hour comments now. It's obvious for anyone to see.
One of my relatives was blocked from soda for 2 months. She bitched like crazy, but she lost a lot of weight. Good for her. Yeah, look, there's plenty of people that consume a lot of soda, too much.
Harsh. Harsh, but possibly fair.
There's a lot of truth in that. They start pretty young down here. Let's say they're very playful from a very young age. It's probably the reason for the two-headed effect. Yes. Perfect, Daniel. Oh, oi! I hit a raw nerve. One of your fellow Kiwis just basically told me to calm down. You know that's impossible, Bart.
Well, yeah. Once you get the Tasmanian roll and the Tasmanian devil.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't control
it.
There he is.
So, what's happening, boys?
Oh, we're just going through a couple of comical pieces, a bit of information.
I'm just white knuckling it like usual, pretend like I understand what Harry's saying.
Yeah. Cool.
Mate, I don't even understand sometimes, especially when I've had a few drinks.
Yeah. Here, we don't have a fourth window for butter, but we do have butter present. Well, I mustn't hold her for too long against her will.
T1.
Toy.
And there's T2, bird brain.
Oh, fuck, here we go. Now it's all on.
Oh, fucking hell. You know what you're getting yourself into.
Well, yes.
Do you need to ask Richard?
It's
It's
Awfully
fucking
fermented.
nature.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
blood. It's just watered down blood. Yeah.
Perfect.
See, I told you he'll try a bit of raw now and then.
Yeah, but nothing like that donut that Fappers was showing on the Discord earlier. My God. Ooh,
He likes a bit of a fat donut, does he?
well, more than you'd imagine, perhaps.
He'll
You
get-
can't
he'll get-
unsee it. Fair warning, if you do go to the Discord to see what I'm talking about with Fappers and his donut, you can't unsee it.
Oh, that
Okay.
bad. Oh
I'm
shit.
not going forward then.
Good. No click. Hi, Christina. How are you?
Daniel's
Daniel, ora e ho. Ke te pihi a koe.
They know you too well, mate. They're actually spying on you.
I actually haven't had any lunch. I haven't had any lunch.
Yeah, I've been on water, pretty much.
Yeah. I'm actually starting a fast tomorrow, I think.
Yeah, good.
I'm looking at doing probably a week.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So
My next one's gonna be 5 days, I think. I stopped 12
Well-
hours short of 5 days last time.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, I was thinking of doing. I'm not committing to anything, but I was thinking of doing I did a 24. Well, by the time midday hits, I'll have done about 24 hours. But I'm thinking about doing a 3-day fast next week. But I'm still not certain whether I'm going to do it or not. I'll see how I feel. But I'm time restricted feeding at the moment, and on the water. So pretty much. And Dad's got some nice pork steaks. So right after this, I'll be heading to his place to enjoy some really nice, which is in an hour and a half from now. I'll be enjoying some really nice pork steaks. Looking forward to those.
Awesome. Watch out for that omega-6 though, Harry, and that pork. Jeez.
We'll have a chat about that. We'll have a chat about that.
Yeah.
You know, because
I hope it wasn't fed any corn, or else you're gonna die.
That's it. If that's a corn-fed piggy, oh Harry, goodness, you
no. All the pigs that I actually do consume are basically pastured. We don't have any corn fed down here. It's too expensive anyway. Not subsidised like in the US. So, and the sort of stuff I get is pastured, free range, smoked from the southern part of Tasmania, which is really good. But then again, you know, when it comes to animal-based PUFA, I'm not as concerned as a lot of other people are. You know, I'm not saying, you know, guzzle. You know, we're not talking about here massive amounts, but I mean, you know, when it comes to PUFA from plant sources, there's plenty of evidence there to show, you know, deleterious effects. But when it comes basically, I mean, you take a look at, as I said earlier on to the crowd, I said, well, the aldehydes coming from butter are much higher than from lard.
Yeah.
And lard has got more PUFA. So, and also PUFA tends to have also lower deuterium levels as well. So it's not all bad as people point out. It has to be contextualized in, you know, when you look. I mean, I can show a study that basically, I don't have it on my hands right now, but I will be showing it.
Come on, Harry.
Where rats were basically fed the standard chow, which is crap, where they include lard and all that. But when you basically give a carcinogenic compound to a rat and you give it bacon, just bacon, it basically seems to be very protective. So, you know, and a lot of people out there were like, "Oh, bacon's got too much PUFA you know, and all that." And I'm going, "Well, hold on, you know, what is the grams in pork is 0.5 grams of PUFA to 100 grams of meat or 3.5 ounces. It's the same as beef. It's 0.5. If you want really lower, go to goat, 0.2. But to argue that basically when lamb is a non-issue, has 1.5 per 100. It has a better profile, but in terms of quantity and all that, you're not much different. So, and at the same time, is fat in animal fat is the way the sort of the layers and those sort of bilayers, the way that they're actually constructed, are much more stable, and also the incorporation of the correct proportionality of vitamin E to stabilize those sort of things, a bit like astaxanthin in fish stabilizes the PUFA in that fish. In the same way, it sort of refreshes the fatty acids and sort of is an important electron donor to basically protect the fish from reactivity, which has got more, more vulnerability than even omega-6s. In terms of being oxidized. So I see it in a natural food less problematic compared to a non-natural food. When you extract it, like they do out of plants, or like they do out of certain fish oil tablets and stuff like that.
So you're suggesting there's some kind of matrix around the PUFA that comes with the animal PUFA that you won't get from a plant PUFA. Is that what you're saying? Or
look, I don't have any mechanistic studies because there's no mechanistic study out there. I'm going on these sort of paradoxes. I'll give you an example. I wasn't going to get it. I wanted to have a private conversation with you, but anyway, since we're here, we'll have one in the open. Well, remember the guy that actually consumed 25.
I'll be right back. I'm just going to put on my referee shirt.
Remember the guy that actually consumed 25 eggs a day?
Yep.
For multiple years, had no special genetics. His father died, believed from heart complications at 40, and some people said anyway. And his mother died at 76, so no longevity genes there, quite clearly. And he was consuming 25 eggs a day, which is basically, in terms of total PUFA, and eggs do have much higher omega-6s, 17.5 grams per day. Now, if you ask anybody out there, they'll say anything over 4, will basically cause cardiovascular issues, will cause basically heart issues, cancer issues, all these sort of things. And I would agree to a certain extent in terms of plant-based omega-6s, yes.
Okay.
Completely and utterly, because
are you now giving us carte blanche to eat chicken, Harry?
Actually, I'm not so crash hot about chicken. Chicken's got 3, but I don't think chicken is actually similar to other meats in the way it incorporates the PUFA. And so I don't think it's actually as stable and well protected. And that's why I think that from but again, most of the studies are epidemiological, but it does have 3 grams and it's very high in omega-6s. There's bugger all omega-3s there.
Yeah. So the takeaway is Paul Saladino is wrong, and also Paul Saladino is right.
Exactly. Yeah. It's a halfway house. I'm not saying he's wrong or right completely, but I'm saying that there are these paradoxes that we need to basically look at. You've got a paradox here of somebody that's been consuming for half of his life, has normal cholesterol, no atherosclerosis, no issues whatsoever health-wise. He's 88 years old. He's outlived both his mother and father and many other people. And this person is consuming, levels of PUFA via eggs that is much higher than anything that else is there. That is a paradox. And in science, when you have a paradox, it means your initial hypothesis on PUFA can't be 100% right. Is either partially right or it has to be contextualized in certain circumstances.
Absolutely spot on, correct. Well, and that's what truly. Yep. Good. Yeah. Hey, let's jump to the chat and see who's saying what for a bit.
We might as well. Let's see how much we excited this crowd.
Oh, they should be excited to a frenzy by now, Harry. They should be almost ejaculating.
Exactly. They love associational studies, mate.
Well, don't we all? Mm.
Exactly.
Yes. Yes. There is, for example, Harry, there is a high association between people, according to NecroKitty at least, who have seen Fapper's donut picture and people who no longer fancy any ice cream right now, thanks.
That bad.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that
sounds effective for deterring ice cream.
Yep.
You mean I can overcome? I just need to view that to overcome my ice cream addiction.
Yes. You need to join the Discord for that, Harry. Though that could be scary for you.
Oh yeah, I know. The comedy would leave me in tears. Is that what you're telling me?
Oh yes. You'll be rolling around the floors.
I need that. It's good exercise, actually. You sort of work all those different muscle groups in the back and everywhere else. Can be useful.
Yep. So PUFA rights are just as important as saturated fat rights in animal fat deposits, is what we're saying, apparently. Like it. So we are truly drawing the line. We're saying plants are bad, animals are good.
Exactly.
So now we have an ideology, Harry. Can we start a church? Can we appoint some high priests? Where do we go for it? Yep, sure.
And yourself?
Well, you're already king of Tasmania.
Okay. I will give you that role. How about that?
King of Tasmania?
As a magnanimous sovereign, I will give you that role.
Right. Which role am I being given? Sorry, King, your liegeness. Am I being given king? Are you abdicating?
No. Nothing like that.
Oh, I didn't think so. No.
Yes, no, definitely nothing like that. I'm talking about the high priest role.
Of course, yes.
Well, remember. The vegans are right. They actually have been saying that you're a high priest of carnivory, and
yes.
Yep, and pretty much
senior priest. And then folks will respect my authority, you see.
What kind of hat does the high priest wear? Do we get a good silly hat for the carnivore church?
Yeah, you have to have a silly hat, don't you?
Well, at least
definitely
one.
See, what you need is basically to be a proper carnivore. You need basically one of those pointy hats with feathers. What does
he wants to know? He wants to know when he can speak out against the church. The high church of carnivory.
Come on, Ted.
Has someone wronged Yellow Ted?
Well, he wants to make all sorts of claims, don't you, Ted? But we both know that. Yeah.
So we already have a schism in our church.
Yeah. Oh God, I know. There's already scandal. Ted speaks out. Ted speaks out. Yeah. Okay. Good. I think we can control Ted.
Well, I'll leave him to you.
He'll get what's coming to him. Don't you worry, Harry.
As the appointed high priest.
I can tell you, he'll be doing penance. Right.
As if, there is a third person here.
Pope Jared I. Pope Jared I from the Church of Carnivory. The most magnanimous. I think we should get one of those.
Hat, I guess maybe this is the funny hat for.
We should get one of those tapestries that were floating around the other day that Red was doing on the Discord there, and it was like a tapestry using your name, and there was the ballad of such and such. Was done. It was the battle of Sports Science was one featuring myself, and there's another one that was the ballad of Lord Bart the Learned, or something.
Yeah, I believe there was Harry the Wise
we need one.
As well.
We need one for Jared, Pope Jared I. He saith little, he noddeth much, or something like that. I don't know. Yeah, but anyway, go and ask Red on Discord. She'll back one up for you, I'm sure.
A bit of leather. Zombies being saying it. You need a bit of leather, mate.
Oh, well.
To go with the leather pants.
Yes. These ones.
Yeah.
The leather pants, the leather pants, the leather pants.
I believe Richard Burgess insists on $100 for that level of entertainment. For that
Oh, he actually did the full twerk. He did it for $50. I actually got $100 for doing my twerk that day that I did my one.
Could you demonstrate the difference between a full twerk and what you just did?
Oh, the full twerk is full rear view, square on. That was kind of a side on.
Okay.
Subtle. Yeah.
Thank you for sparing us with the camera angle.
I'm surprised these ladies haven't blown a few kisses towards your display, mate.
Luke says you've forgotten that he's watching, Bart. I assume that means there's going to be a meme come out of this.
I never forget people are watching, Luke. That's why I'm still alive. It's always a trap. Oh, by the way, did you see they're going to remake The Princess Bride? And I'm like, oh, no.
What? Inconceivable.
Exactly. Inconceivable. They can't remake The Princess Bride. It is not on, is it?
How awful.
Fuckers.
Nothing is sacred.
Yeah. There's a comment there from good.
She's watching. She's watching.
She missed it. You'll have to rewind a bit, Pim.
It's nothing she hasn't seen before, I'm assuming.
I
think it's already happening.
Yeah, I think it is happening. Sorry, Babs, they're doing it. And I'm like, you cunts. What? No. Rude.
Oof. Man, she keeps them coming.
Yeah.
Rope-a-dope.
She's not going away anytime soon. Oops.
Yeah.
Oops. I meant that. It's safe for now.
Typical Pim stealing the show every time she shows up.
Yeah. Right.
Interesting.
So Zombie, I think she wants you to wear next time a meat-based leathery type outfit, mate. I suspect, it's the new thing with your guitar and stuff like that.
Harry, just ask me. I'll get my cock out anytime you want.
No, thanks, mate.
All right, then. Zombie, same applies. Anytime you want, just ask me.
Oh, no.
And don't you forget it.
Yeah.
I thought I was hearing a clock ticking for a second there, but I realized that Harry still hasn't fixed his tap.
What tap?
What is... Sorry, Butters. Oh, you're hunting bugs. Okay.
She's hunting bugs. Oh,
yes.
Fantastic. Well, at least she's into meat.
Keeping herself amused.
Hapthor J. Bjornsson to play the giant. I don't think anybody could actually have done a better job of playing the giant than Andre did.
That's true.
Film. He was really good.
Yeah, it's sort of iconic.
Yeah. It's almost sacrilege to do it.
Neither can I. But I'm plugged in.
Yeah, I can just hear the dripping in the background now. Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Too much of a hassle. It's not much. So it means that basically I have to turn off the water, unscrew it, and stick one of the washers in. And I actually looked the day before for washers. I couldn't find any. I think I've used them all. I may have to go and buy some more.
That sounds like at least 3 weeks worth of work.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. It's
How
a
long
long
do you think it'd be for?
it's a low priority task.
Yeah.
That sounds good.
Mm.
A bacon tie. That's what I need. A bacon tie. A smoked bacon tie. Yeah, I could live with one of those. It wouldn't last for very long. I'd have to get like a whole lot of a set. Time is ticking.
Ba-dum-bum.
Oops.
He's here all week.
There's that. Come on. Open up.
What's Luke done
Come
now?
on, Harry, get it together.
He's got a new one. He's got a new image for me.
Oh, here we go.
Oops.
Here
I
we
need
go.
to reduce the size. Give me a 6. Okay. Share. And I better not basically unshare myself.
Loading.
Uh-oh. I think Harry's frozen while this happened.
Oh, we're in charge now. Jared.
This isn't the first time that he's had this problem with sharing his screen. Yes, we are in charge now.
So
Things are going
what can we
according to
say?
plan.
What can we say?
Well, this has been a very interesting pants stream. Harry admitted to not wearing pants, and then you generously showed us that you are wearing some provocative pants.
Yes, I'm a provocative sort of a bloke.
I see that we also can't see you down there.
No,
the
still
comment on screen.
nothing can be done from
Oh, there
this.
you go.
Oh, look. It seems like Harry
StreamYard
can
gods
hear
heard
us.
me.
No, Harry can hear you obviously, but he can't actually appear at the moment. So we can say whatever we like about Harry now, can't we?
I mean, I always take this opportunity carefully because he comes back sooner than I thought, but this is an unusual absence.
Awesome. The internet gremlins strike again. Yeah.
People of the chat, now's the time to ask your question and get it answered immediately. Oh, never
Yep, here he
mind.
comes.
You're too
There
late.
he is.
You're too late.
Hello.
Too late. I just knocked myself out. For fuck's sake.
Has that happened before?
Yeah, I know. It's done it
Tonight?
before. God almighty.
Yes.
Yeah, amateur hour. Ugh.
I do fancy a bit of ginger, Jared.
Well, there's a pussy joke there to make for sure.
Yeah, well, I was giving you the opening. Did you see what I did there?
Yes. Sorry,
yes,
I'm just
we're on
gonna
fire
all
form
see
today.
myself out now.
You're supposed to do the going down the stairs thing. Yeah. Good.
The opening. God damn it. I actually really appreciate shitty puns like that, so it takes restraint for me to pretend like they're not funny.
I'm not impressed. That's misogynistic of you. Disgraceful.
Yeah, it's probably racist on some level too.
Oh, it absolutely has to be racist.
Think about hair color.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. I have to bite my tongue now talking about current political issues because I'm less willing to be political about the Black Lives Matter stuff because it's so volatile.
Yeah. I've always taken the same exact approach, and that is that no lives matter.
There you go. That sounds like it.
Good.
Luke, if I may say, I think Harry should change his logo. I know you already put a lot of effort into designing him a logo, but when the time's right.
Perfect.
I don't think anybody could have anticipated that you had such a perfect likeness of Harry like that. Yeah.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
I could really enjoy that sort of sitting there. Another vegan gladiator.
Commodus Serpanos.
Ah, yes, exactly. I could
Mm.
precisely.
Yes.
I could really enjoy that. I could really get into that. Gladiatorial games. Vegans
Yes.
versus the lion.
Veganus ex canis. Veganus ex canis.
Yep, definitely. Lions versus the vegans. That would be
Joel
fun.
ex clonatus.
I need a gif of Harry just doing this.
Yeah. You don't have to do anything, lovely. It's all voluntary. Well, except those two things that we always talk about being, other than that, voluntary. Yeah.
Any more? Luke, that's plenty for you, mate.
Yeah. Good.
Too happy declaring death on those poor planters. Oh, I'm getting ahead.
Okay. I thought this was a highbrow show, Harry. What's going on, son?
It's gone downhill.
It has. It has. Ever since the Bad Bull band got here.
Was it good pastrami?
I think so. Oh, thank you for the Imperial logo.
We do our best, Lucas. We do our best.
Luke,
Come on, Luke.
somebody's missing out.
Yeah. Make her look like a female version of Captain Sparrow.
So just minus the facial hair then.
Plus or minus, whatever.
It's not declaring death, it's the sweet release of death for the poor planters.
Exactly. They don't want to be here. They hate
suffering.
humanity. They hate suffering. We're putting them out of their misery in the way they want to go.
Yeah, I'm helping them with the logical conclusion of their own ethic.
Precisely. If you listen to them, they say humanity is a scourge on the planet. I say to them, you go first.
Yeah. I try to have compassion for individual vegans and direct my hostility toward veganism, but sometimes it's difficult.
Yeah, it's the ideology that needs to be reviled, not the people that are sucked in.
Precisely.
Except for those who are offensive to us, which are all of them that come online and make statements about it being the best thing since sliced bread.
And Richard would have to be our favourite.
I don't know.
Followed by Hench.
Tristan has been nailing it with his little robot voice intros that he makes around the current political climate with veganism and the backlash against John Venus.
Yeah, it's
John
been really
Leo.
really,
Which one was it?
Yeah.
I don't respect them enough to know the difference, obviously.
Yeah. It's John that's abandoned the church of anorexia vegana.
Precisely. Well, the thing is, he's got a kid.
But he never was vegan, and he did it wrong. Basically, is what it boils down to.
What's new? It's always somebody did it wrong.
And he never was vegan. Yeah,
that's true. Yep. If you take a look at some of the recent shots of a couple of them out there that have been a bit longer, a couple of years now, God, they're looking bad.
Yeah.
I mean, vegan
deterioration.
Come on,
Hench is looking the picture of health. Come on, I won't hear otherwise.
Did you see Jon Stewart on Joe Rogan recently? Isn't Jon Stewart vegan now? I'm not sure.
Yeah, he's aged about 50 years in the last 10.
I mean, granted, there's a lot to be said for studio lighting on a television show with makeup and favorable angles and everything. He still looks real old.
Oh, yeah.
He's I think he's 57.
Yeah.
Well, you even notice, I mean, you look around and you see people in their 30s, even in their 30s, and they're looking like my age. I'm going, what the fuck is going on?
Well, they're poisoning themselves and and being devoid of nutrients in their diets.
Well, that's the key thing, because
that'll fuck you up too, sweet, won't it?
Even though some of them will do, because a lot of them, one thing about the vegan community, you will find a number of them that do fasting as well, and fasting is beneficial, and that's probably the only thing that is sort of sparing some muscle and and sort of keeping them, being able to recycle some of their own, react or toxic byproducts from their toxic diet, and that's probably giving them a bit of. But the ones that basically go gangbuster into the fruitarian diet in particular, and don't do any fast, they're just basically constantly munching away on fruit every single fucking day, they really fall apart so rapidly. It's not a joke. They look like emaciated people. It's just it's frightening that people can do that to themselves. Get on the YouTube and promote that as this is good, this is great, this is fantastic. And I'm going, what is wrong?
Concentrate, teeth, son. Look, teeth. For goodness sake, you're a fruitarian, son, because of your teeth. Look, all 480,000 species of human beings known would testify to that. For goodness sake.
Yeah, I think humans have molars indicating a need to chew.
That's it. We never had inventions of any sort. No spears, no nothing. Yeah. I don't know why those annoying savanna apes have taken up hunting. I mean, we didn't when we were in the savannah. We were basically eating fruit and tubers galore. Even though we didn't have fire, but we're still eating them a bit here and there. What is wrong with these damn apes? Why are they basically misbehaving and really keep, showing the wrong sort of message out there? It's so annoying, isn't it, Bart?
It's wrong think. Absolutely. Yes, it needs to be stamped down on.
Exactly. We need to go in there with a couple of AK-47s and sort these chimps out. They are doing it the wrong way.
That's it. Yeah. Agreed.
Or parachute Richard in, He'd do a great job.
He could say, well, hi, everyone. Today I want to talk about how to be a chimpanzee properly. Something like that.
Exactly.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Today I want to talk about my testicles.
Not nasally enough.
Oh, hi, everyone. Today I want to talk about my metabolic disorders. I can't. God.
As a Canadian, I take offense to that pronunciation of about.
Absolutely. Good. Whatever are you talking about, Jared? What are you talking about?
Your mate Harley, he's looking great with his bowl of cereal and sugar.
Oh, yes. Harley's looking a treat too, isn't he, with his false teeth and his rug on his head. And
that's it.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey, the spiritually enlightened one, you mean? Get it right?
Oh, we were talking about Harley just very briefly there. There's a bit of a rumor floating around. We've got a bit of an issue, micro penis issue, apparently. So, that's no surprise.
No,
is this a rumor that you're starting right now?
No, I've seen it reported by one of the many
ex-vegan,
one of the many gullible
yes
women that he's lured into his parlor. Apparently, rumor has it.
It can't be libel if you're merely reporting on what
allegedly. Allegedly, yes, I'm merely reporting the allegation. Anyway,
we're only being allegedly.
Yeah, good. So.
I haven't seen Raw Christina for a long time. Is she still alive? Is she still on the YouTubes?
Yeah, I don't consume any of their content apart from what I see other people post from.
What happened
the
to
drama.
Freely? Did she take out a fake tits or not? Because apparently she was basically chastising other women when she had already done it herself earlier.
Mm. I don't know. I mean, I don't think any vegans could live with that level of hypocrisy. It's so incongruent with the rest of their ethic.
And don't forget the meta-analysis, Bart, either.
Mm.
High
level evidence. Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. No, I think I'll stick to my anecdotes if you don't mind.
I swear your impression of her sounds more like her than she does to me now.
I know. It's scary.
I've definitely heard you say that line impersonating her more than I've heard her say it because I can't watch her videos.
I can't watch them either.
Oh,
So
I don't
I'm just
need to spike
imagining
my
that it's
blood
accurate.
pressure like that.
Mm. Mm. Yes, science.
Nothing like it. Nothing like it. Oh, does she? But she still gives.
Okay.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
glad we were able to get to the bottom of that
Well,
one,
look,
chaps. I wouldn't have been able to sleep tonight, leaving that one unresolved.
No, exactly. And it's, as you know, just yet another example. I mean, we've never seen any hypocritical vegans at all, have we?
No, that's what I was saying. It's too incongruous with their ethic. They can't.
Exactly.
They cannot exhibit or literally exist as the very incarnate of hypocrisy.
Yep. Well said. Good.
T2, you'll go after anything, won't you? You're you know.
He's a bird after my own heart.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes, fiber's good for you, of course.
Without fiber, where would we be? It's good for both the inside and the outside, especially
think
the outside.
Think of your something gut microbiome, something
without
polysaccharides, something mental health.
Who needs isobutyrate? Who needs basically short chain fatty acids from protein, from animal protein? It's not needed when you've got fiber. I mean, for fuck's sake, what is wrong with us?
I know. Mm.
We should be grounding it up, like our ancestors did. They had an industrial grounding machine that used to grind it, to make it into a powder form so we could actually get it in a higher concentration. We're not getting enough.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Fiber's good for you for the same reason that it's good for gorillas, right? Because it metabolizes into fatty acids, but also fat is bad for you. So
what are those gorillas doing?
Nobody's told them.
Bad gorillas.
That's right. Stop all that saturated fat intake, you gorillas.
But you know what? You know what makes me laugh? Each time they actually show gorillas in the wild, they're around these fucking trees. They're literally tearing the bark off to get to the termites.
Yeah.
That's what really makes me laugh. You hardly ever see a gorilla sitting there just eating leaves all day. Like a cow, you will see it, even though in its final stomach, it's digesting all the protozoa, the bacteria, and all the other small organisms to extract fats, long chain fats,
cows get their nutrient from grass, Harry. Come on, son. Jesus, you're just making shit up now.
Yeah, I am.
Oh, good.
Was that a double-blind study? No.
Double-blind study is when both you and the researchers want to gouge your eyes out after seeing the methodology.
Yes, that's it. Yeah. Or how do we make these stats look like what we want them to look like, even though they don't?
Exactly. How can you say that, Shell? I mean,
Goodness.
Botox is vegan.
Yeah.
It's a poison. No different than the plants that they eat.
Yeah. Botulism toxin. Awesome. It's bacterial.
I mean, how bad can it be really for you though? Like it's only like the most potent neurotoxin occurring in nature, right? Like it's probably
Absolutely. Yeah,
probably will keep you young
fine.
if you inject it.
Yeah, no, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. No problem.
Now on that, I'm actually going to
Get into it, young and old.
I'm going to say something serious. In terms of lipopolysaccharides that you get off the actual that little tail end in the bacteria, most people don't know, unaware, is unless you've got gut permeability issues or stuff like that, it's a non-issue. And the other important thing that it is in terms of preventing these type of too many bacteria sort of in the gut mucosal layer type penetrating. What LPS does, it actually creates a negative charge. It increases the negative charge on its pericellular matrix, which means it makes it less sticky. So in the gut, it's fine. So we need to differentiate between LPS in the gut and LPS in the bloodstream when you've got basically, those tight junctions have allowed it to get in, and then it becomes a problem. As a foreign protein, any foreign protein will create some level of inflammation reactivity. So I just wanted to cover that because it comes up all the time.
Well said. I have to say, Harry, I really, really get very, very excited when you say words like tight junctions and penetration like that.
I was waiting for that.
I'm glad.
But no, very, very good explanation too, of course, as usual.
And would you do that with a sloppy banana?
Well, yeah. I'm not sure.
The banana would certainly be sloppy afterward either way.
Well, quite.
And our dear friend, well, he gets plenty. That's why crap's out of his mouth as well.
I was going to say, it's hard to imagine what the state of that man's gut is probably like, but it actually isn't. Look at his fucking skin.
Yeah, he's falling apart. He's really bad.
It's really clear, actually. You don't have to imagine. All right.
I think he's still taking roids and stuff like that.
Oh, probably,
yeah. I think he's because I know that he's basically talked about injectables and all sorts of things in the past. He doesn't talk about it much now, but Richard does the same thing. Giving himself B12 and a whole lot of other different supplements. But the problem is now it's sort of catching up to him. He's sort of highly insulin resistant. He's got all these other product, and he's just puffing out and really looking very bad, in that regard. So, yes. Did you see him in the recent one that he actually, there was something, Tristan was actually showing some vegan protester, older lady that got run down apparently. And he was making a big fuss. He turned up, a lot of these trucks, they will actually stop in the middle of the road, not because they were trying to incite the vegans, but they were stopping there because they have to do, because it's very tight there. It's a major road, and you've only got a small entrance. You have to go to the left, which means that your viewing of people on the other side, you don't view them. So when you then turn in quickly to basically get into the facility, you've got to go into with a bit of a speed to get in. And she was sitting in the middle of the road. So, because otherwise, that truck driver could have ended up in the middle of the street with other cars running into him as well. So it's a dangerous spot. And these people are doing just crazy things, literally walking on the street and literally moving around. And apparently it wasn't even the truck driver. Somebody said that it was basically another vehicle. But they blamed the truck driver who was trying to get into the facility as being the responsible one for some reason. But they were there recording, but they never showed that part of the recording at all. They kept it to themselves. And initially they were, making arguments, it's this or that. Then they said, it was the truck driver that was inciting. We could see him from a long distance. You couldn't actually see anybody because he was quite some distance away from the person with the camera. So, and in front of the truck, you've got that thick glass, and then you've got the sort of like a protective type thing. You can't really see him very easily, but they could see his beady eyes sort of focusing on trying to kill her. I mean,
of course,
how crazy.
He had
Can
a
you-
look in his eye, was what Vegan Gaines said.
Ah,
And
just-
he also framed these ridiculous libel accusations as, I'm just reporting on what someone else said.
exactly. What's
Yeah.
new?
Oh no,
No
that's
evidence.
perfectly okay technique to use. That one.
Yeah,
Just reporting
precisely.
what's been said allegedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to suggest that the truck driver would purposely run this person over because he's clearly a psychopath if he's willing to truck meat to a slaughterhouse, right? He definitely doesn't have a family that he's trying to support by working a hard job.
No, it's because he's a psychopath and he enjoys
Definitely.
it.
Yeah. So, no. To mischaracterize, like, if anybody is victimized by that situation, it's obviously the woman who died and the truck driver who killed her.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's precisely it.
Yeah.
Oh, Luke's going.
What?
That's a bit harsh.
Yeah,
She-
suggesting that a vegan could possibly be of any constitution to damage a truck. Come on.
Exactly. I mean, yeah, they're not that tough. Look, it's a bad day when anybody gets killed and all that, but at the same time, these people are deliberately going out there and putting themselves at risk continuously.
Yep.
It's one thing to protest on the side of the street and actually hold your banners and protest and all that. I mean, I've done it as a youngster, and there's another thing to purposefully go into the street or try to go in front of a vehicle or like run in front of a vehicle and all that. I mean, people's sometimes reactions are not that good.
Yeah,
and when you do
can't-
that, you're asking
it's-
for trouble.
It's
Yeah.
less tragic to me when a person's number comes up knowing that they were rolling those dice repeatedly.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it's, yeah. So, what Richard just talks exactly. He's a piece of shit and just talks shit all the time and makes up things and is so inflammatory. It's just an absolute joke.
Yes.
Yeah, if you want to protest, go and protest somewhere. But protest on the side of the street, protest at a square, in some part of the city or whatever. But don't basically go to an area where there's a lot of traffic and there's a risk for people are sometimes busy. People are sometimes, anything could happen. I mean, sometimes a spider could fall from the ceiling in a vehicle and startle the driver, and the driver may be focused on that and slightly veer. If you're on the street, you're more
That
than likely.
literally happened to me.
What's that?
Sorry, slight tangent. That actually happened to me. I hit the median on a separated highway, and the slope of the median was such that there was a tire mark up the edge of it in a nice curve for like 10 years afterward, and the car was fine somehow. I didn't tell very many people that it happened because it was nothing that came of it. But yeah, that's exactly what happened. I flipped the visor down to get the sun out of my eye, and there was a spider there. Startled me. Yep.
The Mounties are probably monitoring this sort of.
Yes. They've since redone the median.
Hey, what's all this all about?
Road,
what are we talking about here? What's going on here? What's going on? What are we talking about?
Nothing.
No, actually, the RCMP all have French accents, Bart. You're getting that wrong.
Oh, well, there you go. Of course. Are you French? Yes, French. Yeah, what is going on here?
Any Canadians in the chat will understand what I'm saying with that.
Good.
Would the spider be vegan? Oh.
How can you be asking that? What sort of bird are you?
Is eating bugs vegan or not?
What sort of bird are you?
Not according to New Zealand law, it's not.
Because they're sentient.
That's right.
Exactly.
They're all sentient. Yeah.
So, Bart, do you think that's laying groundwork for precedent for other legislation that then goes against consuming sentient beings or something like that?
I don't think that was their intent, to be fair. The law is about vivisection.
Okay.
And it says in its preamble, we, the people of New Zealand, recognising the sentience of all living beings,
Yes.
are not up for this vivisection. That was the intention of the legislation. I,
Okay,
of course,
that's a
have
little bit
twisted it
less
to my
emphatic
own
sounding.
evil means. Of course, I've twisted it to my own evil means by going, haha, there you go, fuckers. They're all sentient. So that's no, that's anecdotes stuff. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm.
So basically,
I'm choosing to read sarcasm in that, given the clearly ironic spelling.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Fapper?
But Canadians definitely do say sorry. The only reason I don't say sorry is because I had it beaten out of me by a group of friends that I have that are from Texas.
Say sorry properly.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Same with about.
Sorry. No.
My accent is not nearly as severe as some of the people who are from where I'm from because of that. Actually,
You got some nice friends, don't you? Mate, you got some nice friends, don't you?
Yeah, well, I thank them now for it, I guess. Deuce.
You say who's as well.
Most people, when they're picturing in a stereotypical Canadian accent, they're picturing like the Alberta right at the front of their mouth.
Okay.
Oh, all the Albertans speaking at the front of their mouth, eh?
I love it.
What are we missing out on here? People are putting things into people are putting each other into things, or what's going on? Leave me out
There's
of
some
what?
backplay going on here. Backplay.
You know, he's ruffling a couple of feathers, old fappers.
Bit of slap and tickle, is that what you're saying, Harry?
That's it.
Awesome. Mooses to poses. Fuck.
I don't get it.
I hate Mises to pieces. Yeah. Dear.
Yes. Good. We definitely are.
Mm. I thought Faps was our fluffer.
So did I.
So who thought you were going to get this today on a Harry stream? Who thought you were going to get this kind of entertainment?
Fab NATO, you need to own that nickname that Bart just accidentally gave you. You've got to, yes. Yeah. You've got to do it. Getting a bit gay now.
Mate, there's only two positions going. One's fluffer, the other one's less salubrious than that. So you take your pick, son. All right?
All things being relative.
Yeah. Good. Yes, they have. After class. They were, weren't they? Bowerbird. Yeah. What did you make of Shell's action on the old duster there? It was good, wasn't it?
Of course Shell would know what a fluffer is.
Yeah. Fuck him. He gets everything he deserves.
Too much. I got a deep breath.
Right, with that, boys, I'm going to bugger off. I've got shit to do. I've got one more video to edit and render to finish off this 26-week course I've been working on with Auntie Pim. It's only taken me a year to make all the videos I needed to make. And it'll be released very soon. It's a course all about how to manage your mental health and anxiety using both dietary intervention and also some cognitive behavioral intervention from Auntie Pim.
I'm down for that.
she's very much the disciplinarian. She's saying, "You will do it my way, motherfuckers," and stuff like that. So I better go and make sure that I'm on time with finishing the last, because I've made a promise. This is the date I'm going to do it by, and it's today. And I'm nearly there. I just need to render one more video in 4K, of course. So we'll let you know about the course when it's available. In the meantime, love you all. I bid you very, very fond adieu. Adieu to you, and to you, and to all of you.
Thanks, mate.
Thanks, Bart.
Right.
See you.
Yeah, I likewise shouldn't stay too much longer, Harry. I was
look,
already.
I've got
That
about
was
another 20.
unexpected for Bart to drop in.
Yes, he does that now and then. Sometimes he'll come in, he'll put a couple of comments, and then he'll disappear, and that'll be it. Probably Tim calls him away. What are you doing? We've got other things to do.
Yes, he frequently cites the need to do housework on Sunday afternoon as his
Or
reason for not being
occasionally
live stream.
they'll go for a bit of kayaking or a walk. So right after his stream, he's gone. So
Do you think that's just Pim giving Bart the reward for doing the housework?
maybe we'll have to ask Pim that. The high priest, Daniel, the high priest. Goodbye, the high priest. Let's get it right. We can't get the wrong. We can't use the wrong nomenclature for the person. Yep. See you, mate.
Good. Pim was still here. That's all I wanted. That's all I needed confirmation for.
Exactly.
Even though Bart's pants are leather, we know who wears the pants, Pim. And it's not Harry.
Definitely not. Oops. I just overshot from there. What is it? He's in the fridge getting more booze.
Well, it's going to take at least... I can understand needing more meat juice to render some video.
That's it.
It's very intensive work rendering videos.
He's missed all the comments. Tight.
It's not a whip. It's the riding crop, I think, is what people are thinking of.
Say, Shell.
Oh, my hands are angled the wrong way. That
The
way.
wrong way.
Yes, I think I will head out as well, Harry. We're past midnight.
Not a problem.
My bedtime's usually similar to Luke's. When I see him going to bed, I start thinking, oh, I should probably be responsible as well.
Good idea. I'm sort of, what is it, about 17 minutes away before I call it a quits as well. So, any desperados out there desperately wanting to ask something, let me know. And so we've had quite a lot of fun. Thanks, guys, and all the contributions. Thanks, Bart, as well, for turning up, and Pim for, her side comments.
Wait, is that a slight against me? Is she saying the real info comes out after I finally leave? No, I'm just joking.
Finally, you get some real... It's only 15 minutes. That's it. They don't get any more than that.
Yeah, Harry saves the best for last.
That's it. They've had the comedy piece. I mean, we can't give them too much.
Oh, yes. Yes, go to bed, Grandpa. I will go to bed but because I want to, not because he told me to, Daniel.
Yes,
Okay.
yes, exactly.
Well, with that,
Yep.
Harry, thank you for
Yeah,
having
mate.
me on, as usual.
You're welcome. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, no, I always enjoy myself.
Plenty of fun. Anyway, I will see you next week, mate. Take care.
Indeed. Have a good week, Harry. Have a good week, everyone.
Okay. Thanks,
See ya.
mate. See you. Well, back to me. Yeah, Grandpa's gone. Yeah, I know, Kitty. It's nappies. Maybe we don't know. We haven't posed that question. Well, yes, he's great value. Both of them are. So, well, sort of we need one to excite us, one to keep us sane. Yeah, I know. All alone. Home Alone. Ooh, scary. Anyway, guys, I know we've had a lot of comedy today, and I've enjoyed it quite a bit. And it's been lighthearted in that regard, and it's been good. If anybody, just in case anybody's desperate to ask something which they didn't, a question where they really wanted to know, they don't want to wait an entire week before they get an answer. We've got about 14 minutes, so give a bird brain question. That low? God, we're really... Is coffee full of seed oils? Coffee's got fuck all in terms of calories or anything. So it's, caffeine, it's probably and a few other polyphenols and stuff like that. But in terms of fats, proteins, or sugars, it's extremely low. So, nope. And I don't think we have anything to worry about getting any sort of damaging byproducts from coffee. It's just that some people will react poorly from caffeine. Some people it depends on how you have it. Like if you put the instant coffee in, you'll get some oxalate. If, on the other hand, you have just a normal espresso at a coffee shop, obviously you're only getting, because they're pushing the water through the actual coffee, the grinded coffee beans, and you're only primarily getting look, you are getting some oxalate as well. Even so, people say, "Oh, you get no oxalate." No, you are, from the fluid as it's running through, and you're getting some of it, but not as much as you would get from instant, obviously, because you're getting the entire amount. But it's a non-issue. It's so minor, so little. It's neither here or there. I suspect that's from bird brain. I suspect he does. Yeah, coffee's, it's neither here or there in that sense. Second wind. No, I've actually 12 minutes. Dad will be waiting with his beautiful pork steaks. He said he may actually make some pork sausages as well. We'll see when I get there. I actually haven't had anything up until now, so I've been time restricted feeding, but I usually break my time restricted feeding, or intermittent fasting, as some people call it, at about 11ish. And I eat up until about 6 o'clock, sometimes 7. And that's my sort of window that I primarily consume, and that it's a long conversation. Well, things like that cause gut disturbances. You're talking about gluten will cause it. A diet low in sort of saturated fats, and because you need saturated fats and monounsaturated fats to produce DAO in order to improve the gut junctions, so they're kept much tighter. So if you're eating a plant-based diet devoid of these sort of fats, that's going to be a factor as well. And if you're eating things that will damage your gut, like a lot of the fibrous stuff and all that, that will also. But if you want a comprehensive sort of, that would take a long time to explain. I'll actually have to do a video on that at some time, but it's usually the well-known culprits of seed oils and grains and stuff like that, and lectins and things like that that actually cause it. But to go into detail on the mechanism, that would take some time. So, Paul says fats being insulin receptive via PUFA content. Well, we've actually, if you go right back to the beginning, we sort of had a rant because I misunderstood the question. At the adipose tissue, the fat cells, having insulin resistance is a good thing. You don't want to uptake more fat into those cells. But having it at the cell level, so when you have these rancid vegetable oils, they will actually, with too much energy, they will do it at the cell level, but not at the actual adipose level, the fat cells. So the fat cells will keep on taking in energy, growing. Where the saturated fats type things, as long as you're not having mixed, that's very reductionist, the way he said it, because primarily if you're not basically hitting creating a state of the Randall cycle, you're not basically going to induce. You will still take in energy because you've still got capacity to take in energy. So you're going to take it out of circulation. But it's only when you exceed, or you've got these sort of fats that basically can have a deleterious effect. With saturated fats, you will get more insulin resistance at the adipose tissue. That's true. But that's due to a number of biochemical processes, which I explained earlier, that you can sort of check out in that regard. So we won't rehash that because we've only got a couple of 9 minutes to go. Is freshly made olive oil bad? It's got, look, if you're actually just sprinkling it on salad or whatever, it's less of a problem. But if it's basically cooked, it will produce higher, like 4 times the aldehydes you would get from lard. So it creates a more reactive byproduct. So no, it's not optimal, it's not healthy, and it's at the upper limit of the good band between 100 to 130 of deuterium. So you don't want very little, but you don't want too much. And I usually use the 100 band because usually a lot of the like omega-3s and stuff like that are about 102. So I usually use that as a basis. Now there is some argument for being down to 90 is that lower band before it becomes too catabolic or too problematic in terms of not having enough deuterium in the system. But we need more science to basically prove it either way, and at the moment we've got limited science in that regard, so we're still learning in that regard. Okay, another coffee stench my leg. Well, shit happens. Okay, so you, Pim, thanks for your contributions and adding to the humor. Appreciate it. Have a nice day. Okay. Bone broths, stuff like that. So you wanna basically have animal fats. You want the fat soluble vitamins, because remember, all the collagen that actually, even if let's say you take collagen but you don't take fat soluble vitamins, there's a thing called matrix metalloproteinases. These are collagen degrading enzymes. They are regulated by vitamin A, retinol, the animal form. Vitamin D, primarily in the lungs. That's why respiratory and all that sort of stuff. And MK4, which is the animal form of vitamin K2. Do not bother with the MK7 because about a third of the population can't even convert it to the active animal form. So it's a waste of money supplementing. So where do you get MK4? Primarily in organ meats, in dairy products. That's where you get it primarily. Brie and Gouda are some of the highest in MK4 in terms of the dairy world. And organ meats are much the highest in the animal type, the meat type foods. Very important for your skin as well, the MK4. So keep that in mind. Also, eat your pork. Pork has increases as more, like tuna has more B3, and B3 niacin is basically what increases your redox potential. So you want to have more NAD+, less NADH, which does change the ratio over time as you age. So you want to energize yourself more. I will do a video at one stage, me actually taking, but I'll do it at the end of the sort of the live stream, which I will take. I won't do it now because I'm going to Dad's. I will take niacin and you will see me going red all over and all that. Really good for the skin. And really good to increase the redox potential so you actually stay younger. But that will be for another day, and then I'll go and have a cold shower and scratch myself under the shower because I do react quite a bit to niacin flushes. So fun and games. Do not take slow release. They are bad for the liver. Just letting you know, just in case somebody goes off and buys that sort of crap, which a lot of people recommend out there, which is crap. Okay. And a keyboard? Oh, don't know. How long does it take to rid yourself of seed oils, PUFA? Some say up to a decade. I usually say anywhere between 4 and 6 years, depending on your consumption of PUFA. That means how much seed oil did you consume through your lifespan. So if you've consumed for, let's say, a decade and a half, probably 4 to 5 years. If you've consumed for multiple decades, maybe 6 to 7 years of a low, because you don't want to cause high vitamin E can cause imbalances. Okay, that's one thing. High vitamin E supplements also come packaged in seed oils. Not a good idea. So the ones that you want is the Jarrow one that I actually recommend, which has a low dose tocopherol, and the trocosinols, the other ones, they have a higher amount of that. So even though I don't think that you should be getting, there are some people, somebody actually emailed me, and Ivor recently did a video on the vitamin E, and there was somebody that was talking about the other types of basically the vitamin E. Let me just find that link. I'll bring it up shortly. Let's hope we don't fall out. You know what it's like. It can be a bit testy in some regards. And here it is. And I'll share my screen really quickly. Yeah, so it can take a couple of years, which is a fucking hassle in itself in that regard. This is the one that I recommend, which is Tocosorb. Okay, so it's a mix. Tocotrienols, which is what this guy actually was talking about as well. And it's a low dose tocopherol. So this guy was actually talking about how, look, I'm aware that topofrol in high amounts isn't a good thing, and that's why I've steered people to this one in particular. I've said to people, do not take. So as you can see, it's a low dose, 13 milligrams. So it's not a high dose. It's palm oil derived, so it's basically well balanced because palm oil is well balanced. I don't know what he's actually selling or what he's recommending. I got an email from somebody who was actually telling me. I haven't had a chance to see that video, so I'm not going to comment on that video exactly what the person said. But apparently, see, he basically really bagged out from what this person said. So I don't really know that topofrol is really bad. Yes, in high amounts, yes, it is. But remember, there is actually an enzyme that actually is designed to transport topofrol. And yes, you don't need as much. And yes, it incorporates in cell membranes. It's how the cells are able to, do an electron doning effect. So they donate electrons from these topofrols that are in there that have been transported to the cells and basically incorporate in the cell membrane to basically provide that antioxidant sort of capability to lipids. That's why I always talk about, you've heard me for ages talking about, even now, about PUFA, about the importance of being bound properly with vitamin E in its natural form to stabilize the animal form of PUFA in such a way so it's not a problem. In terms of basically the sort of mix, I do basically believe that these tocotrienols do have a good benefit, and this is a complex, which is a natural complex that comes from palm oil. So it's actually a good thing, and it's not excessive. I don't recommend over 500 milligrams when it comes to tocotrienols. They do get absorbed around the tissue as well, and they do have a role. Some say that they work better than topofrol and all that. There's mixed studies out there, and I haven't really seen any strong studies or to show much. What we really need is really high quality randomized control studies, not all these fucking poor, whether in petri dishes or these sort of other studies. It doesn't really tell us enough to basically have high quality information to tell us exactly which one of the two or which combination of the two is doing best. I think this is the safest combination. You're getting enough of the topofrol and you're getting a good level of the tocotrienols, which also have a benefit, and it's in the natural palm oil form. So humans have been eating in this combination for thousands of years in the tropics. So if it hasn't really caused any issues over multiple generations, I think this combination is probably the safest. That's the only reason why I usually steer people to this one, and I've used it in the past as well. So that's my little 2 bits in that regard. But I will have to check out that video of that guy and try and work out what he's actually saying before I really can make any good, decent comments. It's just like anything. Yeah, exactly. A lot of the vitamin supplements, they use these cheap, like with the fat soluble vitamins, they use these cheap, rancid seed oils. That's the problem. So if you can find stuff which has got an extra virgin olive oil or an extra virgin coconut oil or palm oil, then at least it's either clean or it's highly saturated, which is stable. So that's the only thing you can go with for these fat soluble vitamins in a supplement. And you should basically I usually steer people away from retinol supplements. I usually steer them to animal fats because that's where you should get your retinol, because there are too many problems with the supplement industry So I haven't actually found any good quality beyond the cod liver oils, like high quality cod liver oils. There's not much else out there for vitamin A, for retinol as a good supplement. So anyway, that will be basically it. I think we've pretty much covered a couple of points in that regard. Yep. And that one there that I did miss. Yep, that's a very important one. Yep. Make sure it's either palm oil, coconut oil, or extra virgin olive oil, which is what the brand that I have in terms of vitamin D supplements and all that. If you can get it from the sun, that's the best way. I don't use supplements when I can get it from the sun. Yep, they are fucking fun. You should see me. I turn up. I look like a beetroot on heat. Dangerous. Don't come anywhere near me when I'm in that state. You're welcome, mate. You're welcome. Appreciate all the banter from you guys. I love yous both. Thanks, Daniel. Anyway, I better go. Dad's waiting. So have a nice weekend, or the remainder of the weekend. Or if you're in North America, obviously, you're having a nice Saturday evening. So take care. Appreciate turning up. We had a lot of fun, and we'll do it next week again. See yous.